Will we see another 101 shocker tonight? Are the running backs about to tumble for the second straight evening? And how will the pros handle a former main event champ in the middle of their draft? Follow along with the live draft board tonight and listen to our pick-by-pick analysis as we call the action from the 2020 FFPC Pros vs. Joe's Skinny Pete League number 5 to see who will win a 2021 FFPC main event team. We've got a great show for you. Dave Gerzak is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Let's begin now.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now listening to the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. It's the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for football analysis from the best fantasy players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak.
Still above ground, that's the reason I pray. Got my car cleaned up, now I'm ready to play. Make a call to the stick, say I'm headed that way. Heard my cousin cooking out a guy.
Thanks so much, Rob. Greetings and salutations to all the Balkaholics and Gerzak addicts listening around the world tonight. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. I am, of course, your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. My co-host is the patron saint of fantasy football. He is the Dizzle, Dave Gerzak. Tonight we have the 5th of 6 special episodes for you. It's the Pros vs. Joe's Skinny Pete League number 5 draft tonight, and we will be covering it for its duration. Follow the live draft board at youtube.com/highstakesfantasyfootball. You can follow us on Twitter at HSFF Hour, at Eric Balkman, at David Gerzak, and give us a call if you want to tonight to chime in, talk about the draft, 347-426-3682. That's 347-GAME-OVA. And, of course, you can post any questions you might have right in the Blog Talk Radio chat room. HighStakesFantasyFootball@gmail.com is where to reach us. If you have any questions that you want to send in to us there, our producer and mutual friend Rob, our audio engineer and my best friend Bryce will be monitoring those. We'll try to get to all the chat room questions, tweets, and emails throughout the show tonight. Remember, if you want to jump into the FFPC main event and try to win $500,000, you're already in, you can get $400 off each additional team, whether you're drafting live at Planet Hollywood or whether you're drafting online in the comfort of your own home or somewhere else. Quite frankly, we don't care where you draft online. You do it at home, you do it at work, you can do it at the local watering hole, wherever. Make sure that you are getting those additional teams at myffpc.com. All right, Pros versus Joe's number 5. Here is the lineup tonight. Kicking things off from the 1 spot, it is John Daigle from Roto World, Mark Dinnerman, and Dan Fisher, 4-time main event and Football Guys Players Championship league winners. They are in the 2 spot. Former co-host of this show, or a fill-in co-host at least, Draft Sharks Matt Schauf in the 3rd spot. Jared Hassan and Jackie Dunk, former FFPC main event league champs, are cleaning things up at the 4 spot. Mike Leone from Establish the Run is hitting 5th. Paul Friel and Greg D'Antonio, the 3-time main event and Dynasty League champs in the FFPC, are drafting 6th tonight. Our good buddy from Player Profiler, Matt Kelly, is in the 7th spot. A career FFPC main event $10,000 winner, Sal Esposito, is the FFPC Joe in the 8th spot. Nelson Sousa from Numberball, the 2016 FFPC main event champ, or co-champ, I should say, with David Hubbard, is in the 9th spot. Bip Blab Mandel and Kern Reeve, longtime buddies, and they have 35 Football Guys, main event, and Dynasty League championships combined under their belt. Look out for those guys in the 10 spot. Fantasy Points, Graham Barfield, the final pro, participating tonight at the 11 spot. Eric Young and Keno Moss, former guest of this show, 7-time FFPC main event and Football Guys League champs, are in the 12 spot, Dave, and we are already through round 1. Let's get to it. No shocker tonight at the 101. It is indeed Christian McCaffrey going to John Daigle after we saw Robbie Russell taking Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the 1 last night. We do not see that tonight as McCaffrey goes at the 1 spot. Saquon Barkley to Dinnerman and Fisher here at 2. Alvin Kamara to Matt Schauf at 3. Maybe Matt Schauf listens to the show. As I have said over and over again, I would take Kamara over Elliott this year.
I'm sure that's it.
Yeah, I have no doubt. But, by the way, Matt Schauf dialed in as far – we talked about the 4-for-4 projections. The Draft Sharks have award-winning season-long projections. Matt Schauf knows what's going on.
Very nice.
So he's totally on board with Alvin Kamara at the 3 spot. Hassan and Duke take Ezekiel Elliott then at the 4. Dalvin Cook to Michael Leone from ETR at number 5 tonight. 5 straight running backs kick things off. It will be a wide receiver in the 6th spot tonight as Paul Frio and Greg D'Antonio take Michael Thomas as the first receiver off the board. Clyde Edwards-Helaire falls all the way down to the 107 tonight to Matt Kelly. Matt Kelly from Player Profiler taking the rookie running back from Kansas City. Derrick Henry to Sal Esposito at the 108, followed by Miles Sanders to Nelson Sousa at the 109. No surprise there. If you follow Nelson on Twitter, you know what a fan he is of Miles Sanders this year. Back-to-back tight ends, Travis Kelce and George Kittle. Kelce to Mandel and Reeve at the 10 spot, and then Kittle to Graham Barfield at the 11, and then Young and Moss take Joe Mixon with the final pick of the 12th round. And I'm as we get into this tonight, and I think while this is the fifth night in a row, but this is the 5th time we've been doing this. There's obviously certain similarities, and it's difficult to pick up on individual things. But I think the question that I want to ask you first tonight, Dave, which, by the way, how are you doing? Good.
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 101 tonight, 107 tonight. If you were drafting, where does he lie? I mean, is he a top-tier running back? Is he in that Mixon, Miles Sanders, Derrick Henry next tier? Where would you be selecting Clyde Edwards-Helaire, if even the first round, if you were drafting this year?
That's a really interesting question. I probably would stick him. Man, it's tough. I think I like Mixon and Henry just a little bit better, and maybe and then putting him a little bit ahead of Miles Sanders, or they're very close. So that's kind of where I would have him.
Sort of like the 1-2 turn, really.
Yeah, basically. Kind of near the end of the first.
All right. Feel free to disagree with me here. This is my philosophy on this, and I understand that the winner of this league will get a 2021 FFPC main event team. It's basically a $2,000 grand prize with the opportunity to turn it into $500,000. Or next year, Dave, I heard the main event grand prize is going to be $10 million for first place.
Oh, really?
No comment. No, I'm not leaking my source on that one.
Can't wait for the sponsorship from Bacardi to give us $9.5
Oh, it's not Bacardi, my friend. This is all bourbon related. This is the Bourbon Belt that is sponsoring it. In any event,
lots of money there.
Yes, it is. Yes. Edwards-Helaire, to me, is a total pick to win. And for me, normally, like if I was drafting in the Football Guys Players Championship, the FFPC main event, and maybe you don't have this philosophy when you draft, I tend to be conservative early and then sort of open it up and then start swinging for the fences. So I am not going to be doing anything super outside the box in the first round. Historically, I haven't. I tend to go with more conservative, steady eddies in the first round.
Of tournaments?
Of tournaments, yeah. But as we get deeper, then I start elongating my swing, Dave. I stop looking for contact, and I start looking for that fence.
Yeah, but I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he could be a league winner. He could be a
totally agree. Agree.
He could be a tournament winner. I mean, if you take him at 107, there's a chance he could, score on the same lines as Christian McCaffrey. Now, there's a huge chance he won't. In fact, probably a 95% chance he won't score in that range. But, I mean, there is that possibility, whereas you could make the argument that, like, Derrick Henry is probably not going to score 400 fantasy points. He just probably won't.
Right.
So, I mean, I think that you can swing for the fences in the first round, and Helaire is the type of player in a tournament that you are swinging for the fences when you take him.
And I'm fine for...
You're saying you wouldn't do that.
Not that early. I'm fine with doing, choices like that maybe in the 4th, 5th, 6th.
Why?
Because I want to get locked in points right away. Like, okay, so if I was at, for instance, this draft tonight, 107, and this is how
you're trying to win your league. You're not trying to win the tournament.
Well, I mean, okay, so from pros versus Joe's well, I'll tell you this: from Football Guys or main event, I don't think my philosophy changes in this particular instance tonight. If I was at the 7 pick tonight, Dave, and I was faced with okay, the top 5 running backs, Michael Thomas, are at the board, I'm probably looking at Travis Kelce there. Because of the 1.5 per catch, because of the consistency, because he has Mahomes. I just feel safer with that pick right there, and I don't think he's necessarily losing my league. Whereas I think maybe if I wait 2 or 3 rounds, I don't think I'm going to get a guy with similar ceiling as Clyde Edwards-Helaire because that's why he's going in the first round. But I feel like I could get some breakout guys breakout type guys there, sure, which is why I go a little bit safer early on. Again, I'm not saying you have to agree with me. And by the way, there's plenty of people who have won tens of thousands of dollars more than me that disagree with me. But this is sort of my philosophy. It has been successful in the past. Also has been unsuccessful in the past, too. As we move on here into the second round, let's get to it. Josh Jacobs to Young and Moss at the 201. Devontae Adams slips tonight to the 202 to Graham Barfield. Kenyon Drake, also a second-round pick tonight to Kern Reeve and Biplab Mandel at the 203. Tyreek Hill, the second receiver drafted in the second round tonight. Nelson Sousa owns him at the 204. A pair of running backs off the board after that. It's Austin Eckler to Sal Esposito as he starts Henry Eckler. Right next to him, Matt Kelly also going running back. Edwards-Helaire in the first, Nick Chubb in the second. The only team to start off receiver tonight is indeed Paul Friel and Greg D'Antonio as they pair DeAndre Hopkins with Michael Thomas. So they go Thomas and Hopkins tonight in PVJ number 5. Julio Jones off the board to Mike Leone after that. Aaron Jones to Jared Hassan and Jackie Dunk. I think that's the second consecutive night we've seen Julio Jones and Aaron Jones go at the 208 and 209 back-to-back respectively. Todd Gurley, your fantasy value has been rescued. No longer are you a fourth-round pick in the Pros vs. Joes competition. He goes tonight in the second round, the 210 to Matt Schauf. Chris Godwin off the board after that to Dinerman and Fisher, the FFPC Joes drafting in the 2-hole. And then the first quarterback off the board to John Daigle tonight as he gets McCaffrey and Lamar Jackson. I'm just remembering, Dave, McCaffrey and Jackson won me a lot of leagues last year. Did not necessarily – I think I got lucky with McCaffrey slipping in a couple of drafts to the 102 or 103. But Lamar Jackson was like my 9th-round pick.
Yeah.
You're not going to see that this year.
Well, clearly you're not, but that is I really think that's an interesting, and I like the idea of going McCaffrey and Jackson. I think it's you just bank so many points there that's just it's just so nice. I mean, assuming that they both are in the realm of what they did last year. Both, last year was special for both of them. But even if they regress to the mean, as they say, 15%, they're both going to really have great years, and it's just tough to make up those points at that range there with top running back and a top quarterback.
Were you going to make another point, or is that what you wanted to comment on?
Well, the other thing I was going to say is that the Todd Gurley thing, this is a kind of why I think it makes a lot of sense. If you're a person who drafts like 10 to 20 football guys teams, it makes a lot of sense to spread them out a little bit. And so if you were drafting last week, you could have gotten Todd Gurley in the fourth, or in the late third, early fourth round in some drafts. And now not saying that this is how it's going in everything, but he's crept back, back up to where he was going before. And value ebbs and flows, and players will ebb and flow as well. And so I just think it's interesting that take a shot, draft your teams not all at one time, not all in September, not all in late August. But spread them around a little bit. And right now is a great time to be drafting. Yeah,
it is a good time to be drafting right now. To spread them around, I think, is a smart idea here. Well, we're going to spread things around in the third round with a lot of variation here. 4 different positions go off the board. Leading things off is Mark Andrews, the number 3 tight end selected tonight. John Daigle goes back-to-back Ravens. Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews.
Hook up.
It is reminds me of a fine T-bone steak, Dave, with how juicy that looks from the 1-hole. McCaffrey, Jackson, and Andrews. Patrick Mahomes after that to the 302. That is Mark Dinnerman and Dan Fisher right there. James Conner is off the board to Matt Schauf as he is one of 2 teams to start off with 3 straight running backs, Kamara, Gurley, and now Conner in the third round. A.J. Brown to Hassan and Duke there at the 304, followed by Juju Smith-Schuster to Mike Leone from Establish the Run. Zach Ertz is once again the 4th tight end selected tonight. He goes to Friel and D'Antonio here, the FFPC Joes in the 6th spot. Leonard Fournette to Matt Kelly as Matt Kelly goes running back to start. Edwards-Helaire, Chubb, and now Fournette. A lot of touches, a lot of volume, a lot of carries, potentially a lot of catches there as well for Kelly in the 7 spot. Cortland Sutton off the board tonight to Sal Esposito at the 308, followed by David Johnson to Nelson Sousa, Melvin Gordon to Kern Reeve and Biplab Mandel, Chris Carson to Graham Barfield tonight, Allen Robinson to Young and Moss. And I don't know if you saw Graham Barfield before the draft tonight, Dave, but he is wearing a badge. And on that sheriff's badge that he is proudly wearing, it says Chris Carson Draft Slippage Police. He is making sure that Chris Carson does not slip in the draft tonight. He takes him in the 3rd round. Dave, he was a 5th-round pick last night.
Yeah, that's pretty the way he fell last night was just crazy. So you saw Graham Barfield wearing this badge?
No, that's trying to spice it up a little
Very
bit.
nice. If he likes him in that spot, it's interesting when you look at his 4th-round pick in a few minutes here that he could have probably reversed him and it would have worked out the same.
For what it's worth, Chris Carson has an ADP in the FFPC Best Ball Slim over the last week. This is roughly 24 drafts here. Has an ADP of 312, so it basically got him at value tonight. And we want to thank Darren Armani not only for this FFPC ADP, but all the draft boards putting together the Pros versus Joes every single year. You follow him on Twitter at Fantasy Mojo. Check out his website, fantasymojo.com. It is a must for any FFPC drafter, and he will be using those tools in the Pros versus Joes number 6 tomorrow night, the Macho Man League. Darren Armani will be drafting tomorrow. We'll look forward to that. Cortland Sutton, let's talk about that pick a little bit. Now, Dave, I thought this was according to ADP, I thought this was a reach, and indeed it was. He normally goes at the 505. I'm not sure if now Sal Esposito obviously has won 5 figures playing in the FFPC main event before. He knows what's going on. I don't think I could have gotten on board with Cortland Sutton at the 308 tonight, given that there were so many other receivers out there, Dave. I think this is the earliest we've seen him go in Pros versus Joes this year. He was the 9th receiver off the board. He does not scream top 12 tight end, or it's top 12 receiver to me this year.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. As we've kind of stated last night, I mean, wow, dude, you haven't gone through the 4th round yet.
Not yet. We're gonna get there.
Wow, there's like the next 4 receivers taken are
really good value. Really good value.
Even 5. I mean, man, even 5 or 6, next 6 receivers taken are pretty incredible.
Maybe 7.
Yeah, and they just keeps on going. Wow, that half of the draft really kept up. Even Esposito did all right after reaching on
That's a good point. Flip his 3rd and 4th round picks around, and it makes a lot of sense. What's the upside for Cortland Sutton, Dave, this year as you look into the Dizzle crystal ball? Is it 85 catches for 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns? Is that his absolute ceiling? Because if he pays off on that, I guess it would make sense in the 3rd round. I have a hard time believing that Drew Lock is going to be able to make that happen for him, given the Noah Fant aspect, the Jerry Jeudy aspect, KJ Hamler, Melvin Gordon. Now, they did lose their starting right tackle for the season today, as Juwan James has opted out for the 2020 season. So I don't know, maybe that puts more of an emphasis on Drew Lock throwing the ball rather than being able to run it with Gordon and Lindsey. Oh, which, by the way, I didn't even bring this up. I looked at a lot of my early drafts. It is insane how many leagues I went 0 RB with Phillip Lindsay as my number 1 running back.
This year?
Yeah, because it was before the Gordon thing, and I was like, yeah. Lindsay, this is going to be great. No, it's not great.
That's pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, I got some work to do there.
With Sutton, it is his 3rd year. Last year he had 124 targets, 72 catches for 1,112 yards and 6 touchdowns. Pretty solid. I mean, it's a good 2nd year. And so then you look at, someone goes from his 2nd year to his 3rd year, Lock's going to progress. So I can see the argument for Sutton having a good year. There were other receivers I prefer in that spot, but I like Jerry Jeudy, as I've kind of explained a number of times, but I don't see Jeudy. I still see Sutton as the number 1 on that team, at least for this year for sure. And Fant is still a young developing tight end. So I mean, there's a case to be made for Cortland Sutton. I just think that where he gets drafted is kind of about where he belongs.
We were talking about spreading your football guys' drafts out, or when the best time to draft the football guys. A team as Richard Mallon, who actually drafted in the Pros versus Joes last week, chiming in the YouTube chat right now saying that the best time to do a football guys draft is when the Pros versus Joes is live. Now, I'm not certainly telling you to sign off and sign up for an FPC draft right now, or am I telling you that? You certainly could, but you could also wait till after the draft. Plenty of action. Midnight draft tonight. a lot of chances to draft the Football Guys team. Richard Mallon, who's won a bunch of them, knows what's going on there. All right, so moving on to the fourth round here, the wide receiver round, as the running backs dominated the first three rounds. Not so fast, my friend, in the fourth round. Leading things off, Kenny Golladay to Young and Eric Young and Keno Moss taking him at the 401. Jonathan Taylor off the board to Graham Barfield. He pairs Chris Carson and Jonathan Taylor together as his starting backfield in rounds 3 and 4. DJ Moore to Biplab Mandel and Hudson Kern-Reeve here at the 403, followed by Mike Evans to Nelson Sousa. Nice snag there by the 2016 main event champ. Odell Beckham to Sal Esposito. We were singing his praises before. Amari Cooper to Matt Kelly from Player Profiler as his number one receiver. Devin Singletary is the number one running back drafted by Friel and D'Antonio here at the 407 tonight. Sorry, my math was a little slow there. Calvin Ridley to Mike Leone from Established the Run after that as his number 3 receiver. And interestingly enough, his second Falcons receiver as he owns Julio Jones. Dave, I wonder he's going to be targeting at quarterback later on in the draft.
We'll see.
Adam Thielen after that to Jared Hassan and Jackie Dunk as their number 2 wideout. The number 1 receiver for Matt Schauf's team is Robert Woods as he started off with 3 straight running backs. DeAndre Swift does not fall the way he did last night to the 6th round. He goes off the board at the 411 tonight to Dinerman and Fisher. And then DJ Chark is the number 1 receiver drafted by John Daigle from rotoworld.com. What do you make of his team, Dave? As the true rainbow start, a running back, a quarterback, a tight end, and a receiver. Chark is his number 1 wideout, which you normally don't like. But when you look at Jackson, McCaffrey, and Andrews on his team as well, it makes that Chark pick much, much, much more palatable.
I've got no problems at all with the way his team's looking.
What was the other pick I wanted to talk to you about in the 4th round here? Oh, the Odell Beckham one with Esposito. You know what's funny about this? And I'm not here to rail on media because technically I'm part of it, but
Sort of.
Well, I was trained in media.
You are in media, just I don't count this as part of the media.
I'm not like
this is alternative media. This is like pump up the volume.
No, I'm not just talking about this, but
Christian Slater with his ham radio or whatever.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Broadcast with. Anyway,
did you know he was in an interview with the Vampire?
No.
Yeah, I just found that out the other day. It's crazy. Odell Beckham. So he made a lot of news today talking about the NFL's not ready for the season. I'm fine with taking the year off or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, this is huge news. This could be the biggest opt-out, And then I'm reading, so none of this is in the headlines of any of the.
Where did you read? Where was
ESPN, CBS,
okay.
SleeperBot, actually. I got that app update as well.
All right.
None of it in the headline was that this interview was done 2 weeks ago. These were quotes that were 2 years old before he got to training camp. And now all of a sudden, Odell Beckham has no plans of opting out. And this is after he got to training camp. It's like, I think they kind of know what's going on and what we need to be doing here. Maybe I shouldn't opt out. And so then I breathed a collective sigh of relief, Dave, with all the dynasty teams I own him on.
He sounds like every Twitter user in the universe.
Oh, that is apropos.
On the NFL, right?
Yeah.
Oh, the NFL has no idea what they're doing. It's funny when people make these comments, and then Joe Bryant every once in a while will pipe in, and Joe Bryant with his very reasoned, rational response, like, why do you feel that way?
Yeah.
And then they'll kind of make a comment, and you'll go, well, it seems to me like the NFL kind of has their act together, and they're really working hard at this, and then there's not really there's not an argument to be made for what they're supposedly doing wrong. Everyone just likes to be mad about stuff.
Right, exactly. And I don't want to get on a soapbox here, and I'm not going to, but I will say this: as we branch out to other sports, every time a baseball player tests positive or has come in contact with somebody who tests positive, one player is like, the Cardinals had to shut it down. Just shut it down, Major League Baseball.
Season's over.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
It's like everybody wants it to fail. And, Major League Baseball is trying to, we went 4 months without sports. And in that planning, the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA, they went full bore. And it's like, okay, how can we make this happen?
Sure.
And again, I don't want to rail on media here, Dave, but every single Marlins and Phillies player that tested positive last week, I was barraged by updates of that. They resume their seasons tomorrow, both those teams.
Yeah, and
I've heard nary a peep about that.
And so in baseball, there's 32 teams?
30.
30. Okay, so the 28 out of 30 have been completely successful. That's a 9.
Well, I would say 27 out of 30.
Okay, so 27 out of 30. That's a 900 batting. Yes, a 900 batting average.
Yeah.
In baseball, that's pretty good.
That's not bad. That is not bad at all. So I think, and we know we're going to get positive tests. It's going to be, I hesitate to use the word fun, but it's going to be a unique season. It's going to be an interesting season. It's going to be a season of attrition. And
it'll be challenging in a lot of ways.
In different ways. For
players, NFL players and fantasy players.
Yeah, and people, and from a fantasy aspect, I don't want to turn this into a whole thing here, but from a fantasy aspect, people always seem, at least a lot of people I talk to, they're always like, well, what's the new challenge? What's the new thing? What's the new way I can play fantasy football? And my answer to that this year is like, you don't have to look for a new way. This season is going to present a ton of challenges.
The pandemic found you.
It's going to challenge you for your depth. We've seen it a lot of times in the main event in the Football Guys Players Championship where you're awarding these $500,000 prizes. Some of these teams are not very deep, and they get lucky. Certain amounts of luck the last 3 weeks of the season.
Higbee. Lucky.
Higbee was huge last year. And I just look at it from the standpoint, I don't think you can do that this year. I don't think you can fake your way into it. I think that this is going to be whoever wins this year, whoever wins a lot of money, you will have been talented for drafting, talented for lineup starting, and super talented on the waiver wire.
And, roster construction as well. I mean, we made a conscious choice, we tried not to dumb down the main event and Football Guys Players Championship. We decided not to add IR spots and to add increased roster sizes because we felt it would dilute the waiver.
Oh, God, waivers would be terrible.
They would be terrible. Yeah. And so we feel that it's part of your job as a manager of your team.
It's a challenge. I wouldn't consider it a job, but it's a challenge.
It's part of part of the competition.
Part of the journey.
Part of the competition, part of the skill. You draft Drew Brees as backup if you have Drew Brees as a starter. I mean, do you carry 2 kickers? I mean, these are choices. Or do you carry an 8th wide receiver, some guy that's not really ever going to probably start for you? I mean, those are choices you have to have and you have to make.
The choices that the PVJ drafters are making tonight are happening right before our eyes. Let's get you back into the 5th round here. After the chart pick, Daigle goes back-to-back wide receivers. He from Roto World takes Terry McLaurin at the 501. Mark Ingram, the 3rd running back selected by Dinerman and Fisher at the 502 tonight. Tyler Lockett to Matt Schauf is his number 2 receiver. Cooper Kupp to Hassan and Duke as their number 3 wideout to go with A.J. Brown and Adam Thielen. Le'Veon Bell, Dave, slipping into the 5th round again tonight. Le'Veon Bell goes to Mike Leone there as his number 2 running back at the 505.
Is there some rumors I haven't been reading?
Nah, they just think it's Le'Veon Bell, man. You don't know what he's capable of. Cam Akers to Friel and D'Antonio there. DK Metcalf, number 2 wideout by Matt Kelly from Player Profiler. Evan Engram is the 5th tight end off the board tonight. A little interesting there from Sal Esposito. By the way, Esposito chiming in on the YouTube chat that he's looking for comebacks from both Odell Beckham and Evan Engram tonight. Those were his 4th and 5th round picks.
I thought you were going to say he chiming in on the YouTube channel. Hey, Balky, pissed off on your Cortland Sutton comment.
No, yeah, that
would be great.
Yeah, no,
you 2 clowns can screw off.
I think he's too polite for that, but I'm sure he's thinking it. Balkman agrees. They don't know what the hell they're talking about.
I like it. Sal's got the great Italian name too, so give us some Italian, talk smack.
It's a fantastic name. Sal Esposito, forever nicknamed on the HSFF Hour as the nice guy Italian. Kareem Hunt to Numberball's Nelson Sousa, the 2016 FFPC main event champ. He goes as his number 3 running back there behind David Johnson and Miles Sanders. David Montgomery is the number 3 running back for Biplab Mandel and Hudson Reeve there at the 5'10". Marquise Brown, Hollywood, goes to Graham Barfield from Fantasy Points. And Tariq Cohen, the 5'12 tonight, to Young and Moss. Tariq Cohen, Dave, normally has an ADP in the FFPC Best Ball Slims at the 804. Young and Moss. Maybe they know something we don't. By the way, Keno Moss, we had him on the show. He is indeed the tight end whisperer. We'll see what happens with the tight ends he selects tonight. If you are drafting in a tight end premium league like the Football Guys Players Championship or the main event, pay attention to who Keno Moss and Eric Young take at that last spot because they're probably bound to have a big season this year.
Speaking of cool names, again, Keno Moss, another great name.
It's a great name. Fantastic name. He was a fantastic guest on the HSFF Hour a couple of years ago as well.
Yeah, he was.
Tariq Cohen, I like him. I don't know if I like him. if somebody's passing me the note in class, Tariq Cohen likes you. Do you like him? And then I get the yes, no, maybe. I am checking the maybe box because at the 5:05.
Are you flicking the paper?
No, what did you do that? We didn't do that.
Whatever.
We just folded it back up and passed.
No, you know what I'm talking about? The thing where you.
That's the whole. Yeah, I don't know what that's called, but it's like where you put your fingers in and then you open it and close it
like
and open
it.
South Park did an episode on this.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it's called, but we did do that. But that was not the whole like me thing.
I know. It just got me thinking about it.
Yeah, no, it was bizarre. And I wasn't very popular when I was back in grade school.
You were popular in high school, though, right?
No, high school, yeah, it was cool because I actually got notes about, this is an actual girl that wants to know if I liked her. Back
nice.
In grade school, it was like the pet fish in the classroom.
It was the Boy Scout leader.
Glubby, no, it wasn't that. Glubby likes you. Do you like Glubby? Check yes, no, or maybe. And that's the best I could get, which was cool. It was a weird time for me. High school was great, though.
I think grade school is a weird time for pretty much everyone.
For everyone, yeah.
Except, it's not a weird time for? It's not a weird time for a kid who has a brother who's like 5 years older than him and is cool. Because then he just knows what's cool already. You know what I mean? So then he dresses well. He dresses like someone 5 years older or whatever. It's just so easy then. And I didn't have that either.
I have two younger brothers. One of them was a year younger than me. And he was way smarter than me. He is, but
still is. He's not dead or anything.
No, yeah, he is way smarter than me. I think he's still a much better athlete than me. He doesn't play team sports anymore. He's just basically running. And was much more successful with the fairer sex. And so what was the precedent I was setting?
I don't know.
Dave, the bar was 6 inches off the ground for me. And then he raised it for my youngest brother to a height that he couldn't reach in any event. But that's how it is. Getting back to Tariq Cohen, Dave. It's interesting
These shows do get better, I think, because we just stopped caring as much about the actual
draft.
I
don't know if better is the right modifier that I would use. David Montgomery,
different.
Yes, different is accurate. David Montgomery normally goes at the 409. Tariq Cohen normally goes at the 804. They are separated by 2 picks tonight. I don't think I like Cohen that much, but I do like his prospects this year. We kind of talked about Montgomery. At that spot for the value, are you taking Montgomery over Cohen and just hoping to hit on Cohen later?
No, yeah, I would take Montgomery for sure over Cohen. I think that, Eric Young and Keno Moss, I mean, if they had known the ADP, they probably would have waited and let Cohen fall and had the probably 70% chance that Cohen makes it to the 712, I'd say. If his ADP is 804.
Yeah, no, you're
70, 75. Maybe take that risk, but that's all right. I mean, hey, they got their guy, as you like to say, Balkan.
Indeed, and they also got their guy in the 6th round as Young and Moss take Will Fuller as their number 3 receiver. Stephon Diggs and Keenan Allen after that to Barfield and then Mandel and Moss, respectively. Raheem Mostert is the 4th running back chosen by Nelson Sousa. He gets Mostert tonight at the 604. T.Y. Hilton to Sal Esposito. Dak Prescott off the board to Matt Kelly tonight as the number 3 quarterback. J.K. Dobbins, back-to-back rookie running backs for Paul Friel and Greg D'Antonio. J.K. Dobbins is the 607 pick tonight. Ronald Jones, the 3rd running back selected by Michael Leone from Establish the Run. And then you have Darren Waller as the number 6 tight end off the board tonight. Darren Waller to Jared Hassan and Jackie Duke. Russell Wilson is the number 4 quarterback. Bit of an interesting selection there by Matt Shelf. And it's going to get more interesting as we get into the 7th round. Russell Wilson is his number 1 quarterback. Devontae Parker to Mark Donnerman and Dan Fisher, the 4-time FFPC main event and Football Guys League champions. And then Mr. Higbee, the guy that FFPC leagues will hinge upon this year. You love him or you hate him. Literally no in between. Because if you hate him, you'll never get him. If you love him, you probably get him in most of your drafts unless you have a fellow Higbee lover. Tyler Higbee off the board at the 612 tonight to John Daigle from Roto World as he has quite the rainbow start here. Very interesting start for Mr. Daigle. Lamar Jackson, a pair of tight ends, pair of receivers, and Christian McCaffrey. So fun times there for Daigle from Roto World as the winner of this will get a 2021 FFPC main event entry.
Let me just
go ahead.
About
yeah.
I really wish if I was him. Now, granted, it's easy for us to look at this retrospectively, but in the 5th round, he takes Terry McLaurin there. I would have really thought that Le'Veon Bell would have been a nice pick for his team. And then had he taken Bell in the, let's say he takes Higbee in the 6th, that's, if he chooses to do that, that's fine. And then the 7th, which we haven't talked about, there's a receiver that went that he could have taken instead of Tevin Coleman, who I really like quite a bit. I mean, should I say who it is?
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Tyler Boyd. He could have, so instead of having Mclaurin and Coleman, he could have had Le'Veon Bell, a bell cow running back, and Tyler Boyd. I just don't think that Mclaurin is. I honestly don't think Mclaurin is even any better than Tyler Boyd, to be honest, as far as stats.
Wow, really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Tyler Boyd had a fantastic year last year, and I think he's going to have another one this year. So I don't feel like there's that a couple round drop off. I don't think there's any. I just don't think there's a drop off there.
I'm just actually looking. This is with the McLaurin Boyd discussion here. Terry McLaurin normally goes at the 508 in these FFPC best ball slims. Tyler Boyd normally going at 708. So that's interesting that you think Boyd might have the better season, and he's 2 rounds later. It's another reason to hold off and maybe go a different direction and hopefully get Tyler Boyd in like the 6th or the 7th then.
Yeah, I mean, if you give me 1 second, I can just.
I can give you more than 1 second here, Dave. Just as a recap too, as Dave gets through this. After we have now made it through 6 rounds here tonight in Pros versus Joes League number 5, we have had a total of 7 tight ends off the board. We have had a total of 4 quarterbacks off the board. The rest has all been running backs and receivers. First 3 rounds dominated by running backs. Then you have the rise of the receivers in the 4th, and then I would say it's been back to running backs after that too, for what we're looking at tonight. A lot of love in the chat room from both Blog Talk Radio and YouTube. If you're not in one of those right now, hop in. It's a lot of fun. Go ahead, Dave.
So as a rookie, Terry McLaurin had 58 catches for 919 yards and 7 touchdowns. You expect him to do better this year. And he has Haskins is back as his second-year quarterback.
Right.
Tyler Boyd had 76 catches for 1,028 yards and 7 touchdowns, and that was probably his 4th year, whatever it is. And he has Joe Burrow, who I think is going to be at least as good as Haskins will be as a rookie. I think Burrow will be as good as Haskins is as a second-year quarterback.
Right.
I don't think I'm alone in that thinking. I think that Burrow is drafted way before Haskins is, and I think that Boyd has a higher floor. I mean, there's a chance that McLaurin's going to command a lot of targets. I get it. But you're talking about this huge differential in, 20-some picks or whatever. I think that Boyd's a super value comparatively.
All right, let's get into this discussion real quick. First of all, to answer your quarterback quandary, not that you have a quandary, but just pointing this out for the listeners. Dwayne Haskins normally going as quarterback 32 at the 1608.
Effectively the last starting quarterback.
Effectively, yes. Joe Burrow, quarterback 19 at the 1204. So about 4 rounds difference, but 13 quarterbacks go in between there. You can make the case, Dave, that Burrow has many more options in front of him than does Haskins in Washington. So you would think that McLaurin would receive probably a top 5 target share of in the NFL this year for all passing games.
And defenses will also be making sure to double team.
Another good point.
After him.
Right. Will it make a difference when you are slinging the rock 30 times in the second half of every game this year? Or do you not envision, what's the over-under in Washington's wins this year? 4.5?
No, I'm sure it's higher than that.
Really?
Yeah.
They're a pretty terrible team, dude. They got the pass rusher from Ohio State this year.
But I mean, I don't know. To me, I would say 6.5. But I mean, I can look it up. It's fine.
All right. I would take the under on that, but I get it. So, all right. So, but I mean, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you here. I think
you got to make the argument.
There's a lot of merit to drafting Tyler Boyd in the 7th round as opposed to Terry McLaurin in the 5th round. I can definitely get on board with that. Speaking of the 7th round, let's get to it here. The Tyler Boyd round. The 7th round of the Pros vs. Joes, number 5 tonight, sponsored by Tyler Boyd, your favorite Cincinnati Bengals receiver. When you need a first down, when you need a touchdown, and you're a Bengals quarterback, who are you looking for? Tyler Boyd. Check it out, tylerboyd.com, and look for him in the 7th round of tonight's draft. Back to you, Dave.
We actually have to split the difference. It's 5.5, and they're plus 100, courtesy of Bet Online as of July 30th.
Is that a U.S.
I don't know.
Sports book?
Bet plus 100 on the over. So it's actually trending towards the under 5.5 a little bit. So
yeah. Who's your favorite to win that division? It's Dallas, right? You don't like Philly, do you?
Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
I think it's Dallas.
I think about fantasy players. I don't actually think about.
You only have a few weeks before we're in Kentucky when you have to figure this stuff out for
that's
real.
Right. They have a sports book.
Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah. All right.
So you got about 3 weeks.
I got to go by their perspective.
Yeah, exactly. Tevin Coleman leading things off here in the 7:01 tonight. John Daigle from Roto World takes him as his number 2 running back to pair with Christian McCaffrey. Hayden Hurst, Double H, goes to Mark Dinerman and Dan Fisher at the 7:02. Matt Schauf does an interesting strategy here as he goes back-to-back quarterbacks. Russell Wilson in the 6th, Drew Brees in the 7th. Drew Brees, ladies and gentlemen, is the number 5 quarterback off the board. Matt Schauf, love you to call in and tell us why you picked Drew Brees over Kyler Murray, who went 2 picks later to Mike Leone. Right before that, it was Marlon Mack to Hassan and Duke as their number 3 running back. Then goes Murray, then goes Boyd, as we talked about earlier. Paul Friel and Greg D'Antonio taking him at the 7:06 tonight. Darius Geis, the Washington football team starting running back, at the 7:07 to Matt Kelly as his number 4 rusher. Deshaun Watson will be calling all the plays for Sal Esposito in the 8 spot tonight. Number 1 quarterback there. Rob Gronkowski, speaking of number 1s, he's the number 1 tight end to Nelson Sousa. Sousa goes with Rob Gronkowski, codenamed Gronk, at the 7:09 tonight. Deontay Johnson, 3rd wideout drafted by Kern Reeve and Biplab Mandel there at the 7:10. James White and Michael Gallup wrap up the 7th round of action here. James White to Graham Barfield, Michael Gallup to Eric Young, and Keno Moss there. Dave, what do you make of this Drew Brees selection by Matt Schauf? You know, you had Kyler Murray, you had Deshaun Watson out there, guys that normally go ahead of Brees. In fact, if you look at the Best Ball Slim ADP over the last week, Drew Brees is quarterback 12. He gets selected tonight as quarterback 5. I'm not sure I can make a good argument for that.
Well, you know, I'm pretty sure that the other 4 Pros versus Joe's drafts all had the same 6 quarterbacks going 1 through 6. Maybe not in that order, but it was Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and then in some order it was Wilson, Murray, Prescott, and Watson. And I don't quite get it. I mean,
I'm not sure I do
either.
I
think he could have picked up somebody else and grabbed Brees in the 8th round. What's his ADP in the 8th? I mean, easily in the 8th.
For
right?
Drew Brees?
Yeah.
I think it's after that.
I'm saying
10:01.
Yeah, 10:01. So I think that easily in the 8th he still could have grabbed Brees. So that was not something he had to do necessarily.
Listening to the Football Guys podcast on the way over to the studio this evening, I was listening to the New Orleans Saints preseason watch list, and it seems the scuttlebutt, Dave, seems to be from Saints beat writers that Taysom Hill is going to be working his way onto the field more and more this year, being groomed as a potential future quarterback there. And, you know, I love to wait on quarterbacks, but if I'm going to draft one early, Dave, I got to get one that's out there for 100% of the time. Rather have Watson, rather have Murray, rather have a lot of these guys. You know, the fact that Drew Brees is, 41, 42 years old, and he's, eyeing his NBC booth job next to Collinsworth and Michaels or whoever. I don't know, man. It's just, it's a ballsy move, and you already had Russell Wilson in the 6th round. I don't know if going with Drew Brees in the 7th is the best way to spend draft assets, but Matt Schauf is an extraordinarily brilliant guy, so I'm going to check to the power on this one. I'm just not a huge fan of that pick. Would you be on board with Rob Gronkowski as your number 1 tight end in the 7th round as Nelson Sousa is, Dave?
Probably not. I don't think so. I think I would have gone with the tight end that went after him, actually. I'm sure I would have.
Yeah, there is Rob Gronkowski as far as where he normally goes. He's normally tight end 10 in the 8th round. So to take him at the 8:01, by the way. So to take him at the 7:09 as tight end 8, I mean, we're picking at nits here a little bit.
Yeah.
But it makes sense that there's some upside there as well. Let's get into the 8th round here and kick things off with Darius Leighton to Young and Keno Moss. Darius Leighton is the 3rd straight receiver drafted by Young and Moss, the 5th overall. They are sans tight end and sans quarterback so far. Be interesting to see how they fill in the cracks there.
I agree.
Jordan Howard is the 4th running back drafted by Graham Barfield here in the 8th round. Back-to-back quarterbacks after that. Josh Allen to Reeve and Mandel as their starter. Tom Brady to Nelson Sousa after that. So he gets the Tampa hookup there between Gronk. I was about to say the old hookup. It's the current hookup with Gronk and Brady now in Tampa instead of New England. Nelson Sousa is a Patriots fan, isn't he? If I remember correctly?
I'm honestly, I don't recall.
I think he is. I could be wrong on that. I know he's a Donuts fan, so maybe that just automatically makes him a Patriots fan. Not sure how that goes. Philip Lindsay, my starting running back in so many leagues the series I discovered today. So unfortunate. Sal Esposito drafts him at a correct level here as his running back 3 at the 805. Matt Ryan is backing up Dak Prescott from Matt Kelly from PlayerProfiler.com. Hunter Henry off the board to Friel and D'Antonio as their backup tight end to Zach Ertz. I believe they are indeed the first team to draft a backup. Nope, second team to draft a backup tight end. Sorry.
That seems like a nice value for Henry.
Yeah, it does. Actually, I'm going to look that up right now, Dave. Hunter Henry, as far as ADP goes, over the last week, he normally goes at the 612. And so tonight he goes in the mid-8th round. Nice job there by Paul Friel and Greg D'Antonio.
That's so nice. To have Henry as your backup. I mean, that's just behind Ertz. That's just a look. Yeah, it looks and feels nice.
It does. And consider this: they already had 3 running backs, and they already had 3 receivers. Yeah. It's not like they're lacking at other positions there, too.
Yeah,
so
that's super solid.
Nice job there by Friel and D'Antonio. We'll get into more of that coming up in the second half of the show, which is basically kicking off right now. All right, Christian Kirk, A.J. Green, and Brandon Cooks, a trio of wide receivers, go off the board after that. Michael Leone takes Christian Kirk, A.J. Green to Jared Hassan and Jackie Duke, and then Brandon Cooks to Matt Schauf at the 8-10 tonight. Mike Gesicki, back-to-back tight ends tonight for Mark Dinerman and Dan Fisher in the 2-hole. They take Hurst in the 7th. They take Gesicki in the 8th, followed by Dave Gerzax. I got to stop calling him your boy.
I don't like him that much.
I think the thing is I like him so little, and you've talked him up so much that I think he's your guy. He actually really isn't. But Marvin Jones is the 3rd receiver drafted by John Daigle tonight from Roto World. Why do you think he's underrated by the fantasy community, by the way? Just
Jones?
In general, with Marvin Jones, because he normally goes at the 906 as wide receiver 36, and I feel like you think he's more in like the top 25, top 30 range rather than the top 36 range.
I feel I don't think he's awesome or anything like that. I just feel like they think that Galladay is just going to relegate him to this, way later status. I mean, last year he had 62 catches for 779 yards and 9 touchdowns, but he only played 13 games. He only started 11 of them. So, I mean, I can't recall what his injury status, what his injuries were, but he had some. On a full season, when he was playing again with Galladay, he was putting up comparable stats in the games that they both played. I mean, I'm not saying, again, he's much older. Galladay is, the young, explosive guy. But Marvin Jones, he's a good pro player. He's decent.
Matt Kelly already talking up his robust RB start tonight. You can follow up his thoughts at @fantasy_mansion on
good
Twitter.
For a lot.
Yeah, he is. Good stuff there. Stephon Diggs gets added to the Buffalo team this year. Buffalo Bills. They didn't change their name. They're still the Buffalo Bills, not the Buffalo football team.
How dare you insult the Bills?
Exactly. Yes. Far be it from me. Do you think that Diggs pumps up Josh Allen's fantasy value a significant or notable amount, or is it sort of business as usual because people are drafting Josh Allen more for his legs and what he's able to do on the ground than who he has as far as throwing options?
He could add a little bit to him. Nothing. I don't think it's going to put Josh Allen in that top 6 tier where he's going to get drafted. Although Josh Allen always, where did he finish last year? Was he QB5 or in that? He
wasn't QB5. I thought he was like QB7. Okay, I could be wrong, but he was up there.
Yeah, he's up there. I think he might make a little bit of a bump.
I'm just looking at the rest of this round here. I don't know if there's anything else I want to touch on. Just real quick, because we haven't talked about him. What do you make of Christian Kirk in Arizona? Because this guy was blossoming into the number 1 receiver, and then Arizona goes out and trades for DeAndre Hopkins. You do have Kyler Murray. You have the Kingsbury offense out there. I'm just kind of curious. And Kirk goes tonight to Michael Leone from Establish the Run. Leone takes him at the 808 tonight. Dave, he normally normally is such a weird word, but Christian Kirk, as far as the last 7 days go, is a 10th round pick at the 10:02, wide receiver 38. What do you make of his fantasy value this year?
He's a player. I never really was a huge fan of his talent, and he hasn't. He played 13 games last year, 709 yards, 3 touchdowns. So he has to deal with Hopkins getting a lot of targets, and granted Hopkins will command all that attention. And then you still have the Fitz is still there, and then you have Hakeem Butler and Isabella that are kind of hanging around doing stuff, whatever. Maybe they're going to play, maybe they're not. I don't know. I'm not a gargantuan fan of Kirk overall. So yeah. I think I'm not really a fan. So I'm generally taking other players in that.
I get it.
Range.
I mean, number 2 receiver. It's just like it's tough to get on board with those guys. You got to really like them.
In fact, I would 1, 2, 3, 4. I would have taken AJ Green, Cooks, Jones, Edelman, Jarvis Landry over him. I would have taken Kirk over Sterling Shepard. So,
what about Jameson Crowder?
That would have been close. I might have taken Crowder actually.
I don't know what I would have done there.
That's
probably taking my boy Noah Fant instead. That's probably what I would have done. All right, so kicking off the 9th round here, Dave. Zach Moss is the number 3 running back drafted by John Daigle from Roto World. You have Julian Edelman off the board, 2 Dinerman and Fisher there at the 902. Blake Jarwin's the number 1 tight end for Matt Schauf. Matt Breida is the number 4 running back for Hassan and Duke. Jarvis Landry and Sterling Shepard, wideouts going back-to-back to Leone, and then Friel and D'Antonio. Then you have T.J. Hawkinson starting at tight end for Matt Kelly. Jamison Crowder to Sal Esposito as his number 4 wide receiver. Noah Fant is backing up Rob Gronkowski for Nelson Sousa. Oh, that makes me feel better about my Noah Fant teams, Dave, this year. Alexander Madison after that to a non-Dalvin Cook team. Alexander Madison to Reeve and Biplab Mandel. Carson Wentz starting at quarterback for Graham Barfield, followed by Dallas Goddard to Young and Keno Moss. Kind of a heavy tight end round there, Dave, as the 4 tight ends go off the board. Your favorite tight end among those between Jarwin, Hawkinson, Fant, and Goddard? Let me guess. It's Dallas Goddard.
I think it might be Goddard, yeah, actually.
He's the last one off the board, but I think you like him best. What do you?
I might,
Just kind of curiously about Dallas Goddard. So I recorded the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown earlier with Jimmy Wagner this week, and we were talking about the Ertz versus Goddard, and he was saying how he's fading Philadelphia offense in general. And I said, yeah, I can kind of get that.
Why?
Because there's not a lot of consistency there. You have Miles Sanders, who could be awesome this year, but the receivers, you have Jalen Reger, who's a rookie, Deshaun Jackson, who has visited the trainer a lot. You had the corpse of Alshon Jeffrey out there. And he said the one consistent has been Zach Ertz. Dallas Goddard, though, why do you like him this year? Is it a value thing that you think he should be going higher than he is, even with the presence of Zach Ertz?
Well, I think they're going to run 2 tight ends a lot, and I think that Goddard could be the number 2 receiving target on the team. Jeffrey's going to get pumped. His career is pretty much finito. Jalen Reger is still a rookie.
Yep.
So he's probably going to – most rookie receivers are not that great. So, granted, he could be good, fine, whatever. D-Jax is going to get his, but his might be 50 catches for 800 yards and 6 touchdowns or something like that.
And then 4 missed games.
Yeah.
Because of soft tissue injuries.
Possible, yeah. Ertz is going to have a ton of targets, and I think Goddard is going to command quite a few targets as well. And Wentz looks healthy. Wentz, I think he bulked up a little bit this year. They say he looks good. And so I like the offense. I mean, they're going to have to contend with Miles Sanders, so they're not going to be able to play like 6 in the box or whatever and just have play nickel and dime defense. They have to worry about Miles Sanders as a running back. So I think Goddard really fits in the offense, and I think he's probably the 2nd or 3rd best playmaker on the team. You have Ertz and you have Sanders, and Goddard's right up there.
Let me tell you why I hate Goddard. I think I talked about this on Pros vs. Joes, actually, that I have been taking advantage of Zach Ertz is dead, Zach Ertz is gone, Zach Ertz is not a thing anymore in fantasy. And he continues to be a thing. He continues to be alive. He continues to be there every single year for the Eagles. And I've taken advantage of that. Worst thing in the world is when you're watching an Eagles game, and I watched him play in person in Green Bay last year, and it came back to bite me. I watched him play, on Red Zone. And every single time Dallas Goddard catches a touchdown, I think it's Ertz. And
one of them used to wear
their numbers are so alike.
Yeah, one of them used to wear
all white people look alike to me, Dave.
Yeah,
I can't tell the difference.
Yeah, the honkies are all the same.
I didn't say that.
He used to wear like a red towel or something, some sort of
Oh, that would be perfect, yeah.
Some sort of, or
even a silver towel.
Maybe his COVID mask could be a different color.
Oh, that would be tremendous.
Ertz would be.
Let's make it happen. Who do we know in Philly?
No,
Jay Reed. Jay Reed can make that happen.
Jimmy Wagner.
Dave Terpoli could make that happen. Jimmy Wagner's a New York guy.
Oh,
but yeah, we could get Terp and Jay Reed on this for sure.
Yeah, good.
Trying to think. Nelson Verbit. Dude, Nelson Verbit would go in there and crack skulls.
Is he from there?
He would make it happen. Yeah, he would make it happen for sure.
Yeah, he's a persistent fellow.
Yeah, I'm half kidding. Like 75% serious about this.
Why don't you tweet at both of them?
You should tweet at, is Jeffrey Lurie on Twitter? I should tweet at him. Say, hey, like, fantasy's running the NFL this year, so you need to make this happen for us. For us Zach Ertz supporters.
Could you put a pink dot on the back of Dallas Goddard's helmet, please?
That would be tremendous. And not just in October either. Yeah. Not just in breast cancer awareness.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. A pink dot all year round.
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah. All right, moving on quickly is the 10th round here. Michael Pittman leading things off to Eric Young and Keno Moss at the 10:01. That is their number 6 receiver, so nice job by them as they are in, we'll tell you what they did in the 11th round coming up. This is fun. This is a total team I would draft. Love it. Jalen Reger, the aforementioned Jalen Reger to Graham Barfield there in the 10th round. Antonio Gibson off the board as the number 5 running back for reigning Wasps, which is Kern Reeve and Biplab Mandel's team. Cam Newton's backing up Tom Brady for Nelson Sousa. It's interesting here because Nelson Sousa has now gone 4 straight picks of all tight ends and quarterbacks here. We'll follow that story as it unfolds going forward in the second half of this draft. CeeDee Lamb, the rookie wideout for Dallas, is going to be Sal Esposito's number 5 receiver. Austin Hooper is backing up T.J. Hawkinson for Matt Kelly here tonight from Player Profilers. He goes back-to-back tight ends. Aaron Rodgers, first quarterback off the board for Paul Friel and Greg D'Antonio. He is their starting quarterback that they select in the 10th round tonight. The Dalvin Cook owner, Mike Leone, takes Tony Pollard. As Alexander Madison already off the board, he grabs Tony Pollard here in the 10th round. And then we get a pair of tight ends. You have Jonnu Smith to Jared Hassan and Jackie Dunk. Jared Cook off the board to Matt Schaaf to finish off his 10th round pick, and then Mecole Hardman, Kerryon Johnson, the last 2 picks of the 10th round. Mecole Hardman to Mark Dinerman and Dan Fisher, and then Kerryon Johnson, the number 4 running back, drafted by John Daigle here, and that is going to do it for the 10th round here tonight. Dave, in closed teams, closed leagues like this, where you're competing against 11 other owners, do you put more of a do you stress getting the handcuff players handcuffs to your own players or to other players? Do you put more of an emphasis on trying to get those guys, or does it not change whether you're drafting for a national tournament or this type of league?
I would say in a national tournament, I'd be less likely to care about. I'd probably look not to handcuff unless it was a clear, super talented player that was the handcuff, and that's actually pretty rare nowadays. So I think I would take my starters, and I would actually look to grab other handcuffs that could emerge in case those players their starters got injured.
Back-to-back picks tonight here to lead the 10th round off. It was Michael Pittman and Jalen Reger. They're both rookie receivers. One is the number 2 receiver on his team, clearly. The other one may or may not be the number 1 receiver. Just curiously, Dave, which one do you like better for redraft purposes this year? If you're going to be taking one of them between Pittman and Reger, who are you more likely to take?
I think I would take Reger probably. And he's not a person I drafted in Dynasty. It just didn't kind of happen for me there. Some of the arguments I made earlier about the fact that he's just a rookie, while that's true, he's a rookie that's likely to he's likely to start. And the team does have a lack of receiver talent. So, he's got a good quarterback. Whereas Pittman, I'm not quite as big of a believer in. And if I recall correctly, Reger was drafted earlier than Pittman, so I think I default to that a little bit too. I
think it was like 15 picks earlier too, and that was top end.
It's an amount. Reger was a late first, Pittman was a mid second. Was that
something like that? Yeah.
Yeah, first round picks. The GM's like, you got get him in there. You can't just have him be on the bench. Second round picks, they have a little more. It's not as big a deal, in my opinion.
Pittman, to me, I think is more polished, but I think Reger represents having the higher upside, the higher ceiling here as far as that goes. Let's get into the 11th round. Matthew Stafford, he's on the COVID list, means nothing to John Daigle from rotoworld.com as he takes Stafford at the 11:01. Latavius Murray, after that to the 11:02, and that is not to the Camaro owner. That is to Mark Dinerman and Dan Fisher, who invested in Saquon Barkley with their first-round pick. Duke Johnson off the board to Matt Schaaf, followed by Manny Sanders to Hassan and Duke. Darrell Henderson is going to be the number 5 running back for Michael Leone. Daniel Jones after that to Friel and D'Antonio to back up Aaron Rodgers. Pair of running backs here. So weird to see. Chase Edmonds the handcuff, the backup, potentially the backup, maybe the third stringer in Arizona. He goes to Matt Kelly. The pick after that, Dave, the quote-unquote starter in New England, Sony Michel to Sal Esposito. Mike Williams from the Los Angeles Chargers to Nelson Sousa after that as he finally takes a non-quarterback, non-tight end pick there. Joe Burrow's backing up Josh Allen for Kern Reeve and Biplab Mandel. Keyshawn Vaughn is going to be the selection for Graham Barfield here in the 11th round, the 11-11. And then Eric Ebron off the board at the 11-12 tonight to Eric Young and Keno Moss. So, Dave, I said Keno Moss is the tight end whisperer. He's had a lot of success with drafting, waiting on tight end, and drafting then these mid-round tight ends. And who is it tonight? A guy you like in Dallas Goddard, and a guy nobody likes in Eric Ebron.
I like Ebron.
A guy that you like in Eric Ebron. I'm not a fan.
You've been
not a fan.
Crapping on Ebron the whole offseason here.
I may have to change my thinking on this now that I've seen Keno Moss draft him because – this is a guy, okay.
Ebron didn't just show up with his, red rucksack and a stick over in the Steelers training camp. They did sign him, right? Didn't they pay him money to play for the team?
What's a rucksack? Is that a hobo thing?
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever they,
like the handkerchief with their belongings tied onto the wood.
I mean, a rucksack's actually more like a backpack, but I didn't really know the term for the handkerchief.
Yeah, no, they did sign him. Yeah, this was not. Although he may have showed up after they signed him with the hobo handkerchief on the branch. I'm not really sure.
I was actually thinking Vance McDonald was going to take the hobo stick out of town. Because he's not as good. Vance McDonald, he's like the most – I just feel like he's the most overrated do-nothing tight end ever. I mean, everyone's always like, this is his year.
I don't know if everybody's all –
well, not everybody.
There's a certain sect of McDonald truthers.
Has he ever had a year?
He hasn't had a year.
No year has been his
He's had a couple of windows. That's been about it.
Yeah, like a game.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but I think it's more than that. All right, so Pittsburgh, not wideouts, Pittsburgh pass catchers this year. Is there anybody the Dizzle likes? I mean, I know you kind of like Ebron, but
I like Juju.
Okay, you like Juju. You don't like Deontay Johnson.
Yeah.
You obviously don't like McDonald.
I don't mind James Washington super late because he's cheap. He's really cheap. I think Deontay Johnson. I'm not as big of a fan of his. His overall athleticism is not fantastic.
Not great.
It's just kind of average. He's not really big. He's not super fast or anything. And his production last year was all right considering, the Big Ben wasn't there. But it wasn't outstanding or anything. He
kind of reminds me, everybody talks about it. I think you and I have had this conversation off air. That's going to get through. That's going to give the Brewers the lead. Excellent. Come on. Score.
No one cares about your stupid baseball.
Perfect. All right.
There's not even anyone in the stadium.
Boom. Yeah, no fans there. Who cares about this team? You know which is funny about this? So you and I have talked about this off air about everybody talking about, Pittsburgh, they know how to draft these receivers or whatever. They've drafted a lot of bust receivers over the years. Keep in mind,
Emmanuel Sanders, I've said this before, was not succsuccessful
until he left Pittsburgh.
When he was in Pittsburgh, yeah. So, anyway, go ahead. You're
well, I mean, there's like Troy Edwards. There's, who is the tall cat they got there?
Martavis Bryant.
No, well, Martavis Bryant. That's not the guy I was thinking of. The guy from Auburn, Sammy Coates, was another guy that was like a second-round pick that never.
He was awful.
Deontay Johnson sort of reminds me of those guys, where he doesn't have like necessarily the pedigree. He doesn't have the measurables.
Yeah.
And I could see him kind of busting this year, which reminds me I got to make some trade offers to get him off my Blake Carrington dynasty team.
He could be great, but it's funny though when they drafted him, they made
could be good.
They made the comparison to Antonio Brown. It's like, he's similar to Antonio Brown, and it was as far as like size and 40 time and things of that nature. And it's like, yeah, but Antonio Brown, when he came into the NFL, all those things were not considered very good. I mean, he was he has emerged as a fantastic player with a head problem at this point.
Yeah.
But man, I feel like Antonio Brown is like a 1 in 100 hit, right?
Yes, totally.
So I just feel like that Deontay Johnson, he could be. Maybe he's not a 1 in 100, but I mean, I feel like he's got a less of a chance of success than maybe like 50%.
How many GMs have been fired over the years for trying to draft the next Larry Fitzgerald, the next Antonio Brown, the next DeAndre Hopkins, for investing a high first-round pick into these guys that never pan out? It's because there aren't the next guy,
There's very few. And in fact, they've actually kind of looked at this. Most teams that spend high picks on running backs and receivers are generally unsuccessful franchises. The successful franchises are generally drafting defensive ends, edge rushers, offensive linemen. Yeah, people that stay with the team for
What about quarterbacks? Is there any correlation?
Well, yeah, quarterbacks as well. But the quarterbacks, usually when you draft a quarterback, you have to spend like one of those top
Exactly,
picks. A first round pick at least.
Do they lump tight ends into the wide receiver and running back aspect of that?
Well, generally tight ends are kind of valued more like guards, where they're guards or safeties, where they're generally not a premium position. They're not drafted in the top 10. That's why it was so rare to have like Hawkinson go high.
Mm-hmm. And Eric Ebron, by the way.
Yeah, and Ebron, yeah. Pedigree. So like safeties, guards, tight ends generally are going later. But people who the teams that have drafted traditionally receiver and running back earlier, the unsuccessful franchises that tend to stay unsuccessful.
Got it. Let's move to the 12th round here, Dave. A couple of quarterbacks kicking things off. Young and Moss take Baker Mayfield finally as their starting quarterback. They are the last team to draft a quarterback. They get Baker Mayfield in the 12th. Jimmy Garoppolo backing up Carson Wentz for Graham Barfield here at the 12:02. Jerry Judy takes he goes at the 12:03 tonight to Mandel and Kern Reeve. Paris Campbell off the board after that to Nelson Sousa. Jack Doyle to Sal Esposito, another tight end. Ian Thomas is the third tight end drafted by Matt Kelly. I like those tight ends right there. Henry Ruggs off the board to Friel and D'Antonio as their number 5 wideout. Chris Herndon is going to be starting at tight end for Mike Leone. What's with these industry guys getting caught with their pants down at tight end the last couple of nights? I don't get it. Ben Roethlisberger. By the way, Mike Leone's way more talented than I'll ever be with fantasy, but it is weird.
But you're still correct.
Yeah. Ben Roethlisberger off the board to Hassan and Duke, followed by Jay Sternberger, baby, to Matt Schauf as his number 3 tight end. That is filthy. Shut it down. League over. Schauf just won.
The Sternberger Award.
No, the Sternberger / Lombardi Trophy Award goes to Matt Schauf here.
There's got to be a restaurant in Green Bay that has a Sternberger, don't they? I mean, that's. I
don't think he's established enough yet.
But I mean, it's just so logical.
Yeah.
I'll have the Sternberger.
What would be on a Sternberger? Because he's from Ohio State, so you'd have to have something Ohio-wise, right? What's Ohio known for? You have Buckeyes on it or something?
What is a Buckeye anyway?
I was actually at a wedding in Missouri one time for a buddy who didn't go to Ohio State, but he's a huge Ohio State fan, and the party favors for the wedding were Buckeyes. You got and they were like, I don't think they're actual Buckeyes. They were like chocolate peanut butter like replica Buckeyes, and that's what you got.
It's a plant.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't even know if you can eat it. Can you eat a Buckeye?
Is it like a decoration plant?
I'm looking it up.
I mean, you could probably shave it and top it on a burger. I don't know if it'd be very delicious.
Oh wait, they resemble edible chestnuts, but Ohio Buckeye fruits are not edible and can be toxic.
Oh yeah, so don't put it on a burger. I don't know what you'd put it on.
You put it in the trash. You don't eat it.
Well, no, but I mean, I don't know what you'd make. What
you put on the Sternberger?
Yeah, I don't know what you'd put on the Sternberger.
He seems like a lunch pail type guy, so you just put like a bunch of crap you put in
Maybe you put a bunch of cold cuts on it, right?
Yeah.
For
some more meat on a burger?
Yeah, so you top the burger patty with ham, turkey, and like some chicken or something like that.
You don't put chicken on a burger.
And that's why they call it the Sternberger.
Oh, my God.
That's because nobody else is doing it. All right. I'll get my... our good buddy Farrell Elliott probably has a contact.
Cold cuts on a burger.
For Jay Sternberger.
Sort of a weird cheese, perhaps.
You can probably make this. Well, maybe just let Jay Sternberger design the whole thing and call it good.
Why don't we just ask him what he likes, and then he can make it.
And that'll be the Sternberger.
Yeah. Milwaukee Burger Company could do that.
They probably could. Deebo Samuel off the board to Dinerman and Fisher, followed by Teddy Bridgewater as the number 3 quarterback drafted by John Daigle. Moving on to the 13th round. Goes back-to-back Panthers as Curtis Samuel is the 13-01. Jared Goff to Dinerman and Fisher as their backup quarterback to Patrick Mahomes. Deshaun Jackson to Matt Schauf. And then Boston Scott, his real-life teammate, goes to Hassan and Duke right after that as their number 5 running back. Number 5 running back. Gardner Minshew backing up Kyler Murray for Mike Leone. Sammy Watkins, Anthony Miller, Preston Williams, N'Keal Harry are the receivers off the board. Watkins to Friel and D'Antonio, Miller to Kelly, Williams to Esposito, and then Harry to Sousa. Irv Smith is the number 2 tight end drafted by Biplab Mandel and Hudson Reeve, followed by Golden Tate and Ryan Tannehill to wrap things up in the 13th round. Onward we go. Time waits for no man. and neither does this draft. Reichwell, Armstead to Young and Moss. Gerald Everett is backing up George Kittle at tight end to Graham Barfield as he waits 13 rounds before drafting his backup there. Probably a smart decision. More on that later. Brandon Ayuk to the reigning Wasps. That's Mandel and Reeve there at the 1403. Drew Lock, the third quarterback drafted by Nelson Sousa. That's kind of interesting there as he backs up Brady and Newton with Drew Lock. Robbie Anderson, Justin Jefferson, pair of receivers off the board to Esposito and Kelly, respectively. Damian Harris to Paul Friel and Greg D'Antonio.
The starter.
Allegedly. That's their number 4 running back. O.J. Howard backing up Chris Herndon at tight end for Mike Leone. That would actually be a pretty solid way to run it if you were an NFL franchise. When you're fantasy, I don't know if that's a smart way to do it. John Brown to Hassan and Duke. And then Naheem Hines, pass-catching running back for Indianapolis to Matt Schauf. Another good pick. I would say 5 straight picks for Matt Schauf that I really like there. Hines making the 5th in a row. Really like that. Too bad he really
screwed up his whole draft with Drew Brees.
Yes.
What a terrible pick.
Well, he's making up for it.
Yeah, too bad he's not calling in to try and argue for the case.
He's a busy guy, man. Joshua Kelly to Mark Dinerman and Dan Fisher, the 4-time main event and Football Guys League champs there at the 14-11. And then the 14-12, Dave, you can't have a fantasy football draft without Antonio Brown here as he goes to John Daigle at the 14-12. And that is going to wrap up things in the 14th round tonight. I know he's a rookie. I'm just kind of curious, Dave, as to your thoughts on Brandon Ayuk, knowing that Deebo Samuel is probably going to be missing the first few games of the season.
He's got some potential. I think he's going to definitely get an opportunity to play and start with that team. So I don't think he's a very expensive player to take. So I think that's a nice pick.
We'll get back to the live draft action shortly.
Off calling in?
I want to get things out. I believe this is I could be wrong. I believe this is a Skype caller. We're going to go out to the airwaves right now. You're on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour with Dave and Balky. Who is this? What's up? What's up, fellas?
That's not Matt's father.
Oh, my
What's
goodness.
up, buddy?
Matt Kelly making his traditional entrance here tonight. All right, Matt, I'm just going to kind of let you go here. Talk about your team. Talk about what you thought was going to happen, how it turned out, and how you're liking your team so far.
We're going to make some drinks while you're talking.
What's up? Yes, I have my dream team, thanks to Mike Leone. I have been owning Mike Leone throughout this entire draft. It's been a real pleasure just giving it every round to Leone. Oh, I even went out of my way to get 2 quarterbacks with the same bye week just to make sure Leone couldn't get Matt Ryan. Oh, the Podfather to the block. He won
Circle gets
stack.
the square.
I wasn't having
there.
it, man. I wasn't having it. I have the Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper stack. I'll take that. Thank you very much.
So were you planning on – so Edwards-Helaire, take us through that, where you take him at the 107. Was that a good value for you, or were you trying to make some waves here tonight?
That wasn't great value. No, it was either him or Miles Sanders. I mean, it's it would have been great if someone fell to me, but no one did. So I have to between him and Miles Sanders, they're very similar players. It's just I like the Chiefs' offense better. That's it. That's really it. It's a coin flip. I was just in another draft, and I took Miles Sanders in the same situation. It's whatever mood I'm in.
What mood were you in tonight?
He was in the CEH mood.
The bottom line is no Michael Thomas there. The key is you can't take Michael Thomas there because there's such amazing value at wide receiver in rounds 4 through 8. You just can't take a Michael Thomas there. If you take Michael Thomas there, you will regret it. By the time round 5, 6 rolls around, you're going to be slapping your forehead going.
So, Matt, knowing that with the great receiver value in rounds 4 to 8, did you kind of make up your mind that you were going to take 3 running backs to start off this draft tonight?
No. I mean, I don't know what their RB thirst is going to be like. If Fournette and Gordon were both gone in the 3rd round, I probably would have gone wide receiver, but both Fournette and Gordon were there because RB thirst wasn't that heavy in this particular draft. I mean, I got Nick Chubb at the 206. That's as late as he typically goes. Fournette at the 307 is right where I typically get him. And then I had to get one more guy, right? Chase Edmonds. Chase Edmonds is the guy. Chase Edmonds is the passcode to get into the good fantasy analyst room. Everyone that is good at this likes Chase Edmonds. I've figured that out.
So,
by the way, what's
Yeah.
Amari Cooper's ADP? Because I thought that was a nice value in the fourth.
Yeah, did we talk about this earlier? I can't remember.
I don't
if we
think
did.
so.
Okay.
Maybe in a prior show.
Well,
These all run together.
Yeah, they do. That's
He's like third round, mid-third.
Amari Cooper 310 in this
310,
format.
all right.
Yeah.
So that was a nice pick for you. And then, getting Prescott was pretty great.
Hey, well, I'm
I got
asking this, Matt.
6.
Yeah, I mean, it was filthy. It was really good.
When
you have...
and then, but then if I go after Dak and go with a stack it up, baby.
The Dak stack, indeed. You have a situation where you've been in these pros versus Joes. You've drafted in the FFPC main event before. I'm kind of curious, waiting until tight end, until the 9th round. Was that part of the plan? Do you think that you can find good value in tight end late?
Yeah, this was me not respecting my league mates. The idea that I could get Hawkinson at 9, the 9th round, Hooper in the 10th, and then Ian Thomas in the 12th round, that was me just not respecting my league mates. If this were a sharper draft room, I would have drafted tight end earlier.
Do you have a favorite pick that you've had so far, maybe a least favorite pick as this draft goes on, or are they all tied for your favorite pick?
They're all time for my favorite pick. I actually really like getting Anthony Miller at the 13th. I mean, I was really happy with Anthony Miller there. We have him ranked pretty high relative to other services over at playerprofiler.com on our draft kit, fantasy-draftkit.com. So I was pretty happy, man. I was pretty happy with Anthony Miller there because basically the plan is with this format – to just try to get away with 2 quarterbacks. The reason I went quarterback early at the 6th round and the 8th round with Matt Ryan is to get 2 of the top 8 quarterbacks, and then I would feel comfortable just settling in with 2 quarterbacks, and that would allow me to add an additional wide receiver in the later rounds. Because in the FFPC drafts, with these best ball drafts, you can get starting receivers all the way out to round 20. So knowing that, it incentivizes you to try to figure out a way to either go super premium tight end like Kelsey and Andrews, something like that. So you can just go 2 tight ends. That's a lot harder to do, to get 2 of the elite tight ends. It's a lot easier to get, say, 2 top 8 quarterbacks that are rarely going to miss games, are going to be in the top 12 most weeks, and that's the case with Prescott and Ryan. This gives me the flexibility to add an additional position player elsewhere later in the draft. Don't have to worry about quarterback now.
Yeah, I think you're loaded up. Well, let me just ask you this: you center on running back with the first 3 picks. You add 2 other running backs here, so you already have 5 running backs, already have 2 quarterbacks, already have 3 tight ends. Are you just going to go receiver with your last 2 picks?
Yeah, I'm just filling up on wide receiver. This is what you do. Think about it. You don't know what these running backs are going to do that are left. You have no idea what's going to happen. With these tight ends, you have no idea what's going to happen. But there are starting receivers all the way down the board. I'm going to go for, Russell Gage next. I don't know. I just got the likely target leader for the Raiders with my last pick. I know he's not exciting, but you like high upside guys, so I'm trying to go upside and then floor, upside floor, ceiling floor. So Mims with the ceiling, and then like a Renfro with a floor, and then an Isabella, and then a Larry Fitzgerald. You just kind of go back and forth. That's how I like to do it. It's a little dance. It's a little dance that you do in the last 6 rounds or so.
Renfro is the rare Las Vegas slot machine that actually pays out a little bit, but that doesn't pay out a lot. So it makes some sense here in round 16.
He's like the wild cherry machine.
Yeah, totally. You follow him on Twitter at fantasy_mansion. Check out all the great stuff over at playerprofiler.com. Hey, Matt, this is always a pleasure. We always love hearing from you. We always appreciate you drafting in pros versus Joes every year. Good luck the rest of the way. Good luck in all your leagues this year, dude. We really appreciate you being a fan.
Thank you, gentlemen.
There he goes, Matt Kelly, ladies and gentlemen. Fantasy_mansion, the brunch father, the pod father.
Is he in the dynasty?
It's a good question, and I don't know. I don't know.
Shoot, I should have asked him.
Yeah. We'll find out. We
I forgot if he was or not. Because does he play dynasty or not?
I believe he does. We have the tools to check that out right now.
We have one pro spot open in the Superflex League.
Hey, Kevin Scott is all over that.
Yes.
He will help you out with that. All right, we're gonna keep the phone lines open here. We're gonna go to the 716 right now. You are on the air with Dave and Balky on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Who is this?
This is Mike Leone from Establish the Run. I had to call in after I heard some Podfather trash talk about owning me in this draft.
So Mike, I feel like who's the guy who always runs, or the woman who always runs all the debates, the presidential debates? What's his name? Don Lemon? Hasn't he run some?
I don't know.
All right, so I feel like I'm just like,
yeah.
Okay, yeah, moderate, yeah, okay.
Don Lemon.
So, Mr. Leone, your rebuttal to Senator Kelly here.
You have 2 minutes.
I'm not going to lie. It pained me quite a bit when he sniped me on my Falcons double stack with Matt Ryan there in round 8. But he took 2 quarterbacks in the first 8 rounds with the same bye week. And it totally screws up his strategy if you're only taking 2 quarterbacks unless he's taking a 0 1 week. So, joke's on you, Matt. Joke's on you.
That's good stuff. Mike Leone from Establish the Run joining us on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour tonight.
Let me ask you about the Le'Veon Bell pick. I mean, were you pretty ecstatic to see Le'Veon Bell sitting there for you in the middle of the 5th round and just clicked him in about 2 seconds?
I don't know if ecstatic is the word I would use when it comes to drafting Le'Veon Bell or anyone in this Jets offense. I have 2 members of this offense in this draft tonight, but I like to take usually a modified 0 running back approach, but in the best ball leagues, it's difficult to not take some running backs early. So I was pretty happy in round 5 to get a guy where I'm just pretty confident in the volume, even though it might be a little bit of an ugly offense.
Mike, I'm just looking at your draft here, and I just want to make sure I'm phrasing this question the right way. You did not get Stephon Diggs tonight, but I know you're a Bills fan. How excited are you for the fantasy prospects of Stephon Diggs catching balls from Josh Allen this year?
Oh, man, the Bills are tough to figure out this year because you just add in an elite 1 receiver like Stephon Diggs, but it's not like he's replacing anyone. Cole Beasley's still the slot guy. John Brown saw over the course of the team's targets last year and was, performed really well, stepped in admirably as a wide receiver 1. So I'm a little sour on Diggs just because I don't know where the volume is going to come from. It's a team that's not going to throw a lot. It's a team that already has an established pecking order. He's obviously going to step in and be the one, but I don't know if he's going to see enough targets, and it's not like targets from Josh Allen are the most efficient targets in the world. So I'm super pumped as a Buffalo Bills fan, but my enthusiasm fantasy-wise is dampened.
Starting with Mike Leone here. You follow him on Twitter at 2hats1mike. You check out all his work at establishtheRun.com. Mike, so just as a whole, as you look at your draft here tonight, how satisfied are you? How disappointed are you? Where does it rate tonight in all the drafts you've done so far this season? How does this one rank?
I'm pretty dissatisfied. I can't lie. Even though I had to chirp back at Matt a little bit, he is right. The draft room might have gotten the best of me tonight. I had a tough time sort of threading that needle between getting the player values I liked and, drafting structurally the way I wanted to. I didn't read the room super great at times, missed some of the runs. You guys noted, I got caught with my pants down a little bit at the tight end position, got sniped, twice there by Podfather with Austin Hooper, and then I was really surprised he took a 3 tight end with having 2 pretty solid tight ends, but he took Ian Thomas. So I had to patchwork that with Herndon, O.J. Howard, and Tyler Eifert. I got Eifert as part of a really late double stack with Minshew and Chenault for Jacksonville. So, I tried to patchwork it and make it work, but it definitely isn't my favorite draft. I panicked a little bit with Ronald Jones in round 6. Normally that's an easy running back pass for me, but thinking through the best ball structure a little bit, I wanted to make sure I had an okay running back there. I had gotten just sniped on J.K. Dobbins, which I think would have been phenomenal in round 6. And, I was pretty tilted when I saw Keyshawn Vaughn go in round 11. I'll take Vaughn in round 11 over Jones in round 6. So, yeah, I tried to make it work, but it wasn't my favorite draft I've had this offseason.
Mike, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but as I look at your draft here, you had the opportunity in the 5th round to take Cam Akers. You opted for Le'Veon Bell instead. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But then you took Darrell Henderson in the 11th. Am I reading too much into this? Do you like Henderson this year as far as draft value goes more than the draft value of Cam Akers?
Yeah, I like the draft value of Henderson a lot more. I mean, with all the rookies, you're a little bit concerned just given the environment right now and the training camp situation, if they're going to be behind. I'm not trying to overreact to that, but it is in the back of my mind. And, last year we were taking Darrell Henderson in round 7 and 8. There was even a stretch where it got up to round 5 and 6, which was pretty nuts. So a year later, no Todd Gurley. They bring in a rookie running back. And, you just hear McVay talk about this situation. I think Henderson's going to have a pass-catching role no matter what, and then has the upside in an offense I think is pretty underrated fantasy-wise. So I definitely didn't want to take more than 5 running backs. I went 5 and out with Henderson as my last piece, to the puzzle there. I think he's, Henderson in round 11 over Akers in 6, I think is a pretty easy choice.
Mike Leone from EstablishTheRun.com joining us here on the HSFF Hour. Mike, final question for you tonight. This is more of a personal thing for you. What do you have coming up down the pike here at EstablishTheRun.com? What are you working on there as Director of Analytics?
Yeah, we're really excited. DraftKings just launched their best ball product. FFPC has, we got our FFPC specific rankings, and I drafted an FFPC main event. So we're just really covering everything with our draft kit. We've also gotten into the NBA waters with the hiring of Drew Dinkmeyer, and the NBA started up last week. So we've got a lot going, along across the board, getting ready for the DFS season as well. So pretty much anything you can think of fantasy-wise between NBA and NFL, that's what we're working on right now.
I have to say, Alex Kagnowski is my business partner, and he really, we have a marketing relationship with Establish the Run, and he can't speak highly enough about you guys, and so he really enjoys working with you guys, and he thinks you guys run a really great organization, operation over there. So kudos to you guys. And he doesn't usually throw out compliments.
No, he doesn't.
Let me tell you, he doesn't throw out compliments very often. So
he gave me a head nod once, and it was like the highlight of my career. It's just,
he's a Belichick of fantasy owners.
Yeah.
So he thinks highly of you guys, and we really enjoy working with you.
Yeah, Mike, it's awesome.
Yeah, and you can get an FFPC credit with the Established Run draft kit, and we enjoy working with them. They make it easy to talk about their product just because of the data that's available with their product. And in the off season when everyone's wanting to do drafts, just the flexibility. I really love the super flex options, the super flex dynasty options. It's really tough to find public leagues out there, public paid leagues that have that super flex dynasty option. So I've done a couple of those and just really have enjoyed it.
Check out all of his work at EstablishTheRun.com. You can follow him on Twitter at 2hats1Mike. Mike, certainly good talking to you tonight. Good luck in all your leagues this summer. Good luck with Establish the Run. Keep churning out all the great content that you guys currently do, and we'll talk again soon.
Appreciate it. Nice job covering the draft, guys.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Mike Leone, ladies and gentlemen. Good stuff from here. I believe this is Mike's first foray into Pros versus Joes. So good stuff from him. Always like to hear from the first timers.
I appreciate that he was honest in his assessment of his own team, where he's like, it didn't go exactly how he wanted to.
Right.
It wasn't his best draft at all, or ever, but he thought I think he did a fine job.
Yeah, I did too. I think he's a little. Well, those ETR guys, they
very hard on themselves.
They want a perfection, Dave, and they don't always get that. All right, so we have like 4 rounds to sort through. Do you just want to skip ahead to team analysis?
Yes, let's do that.
All right, I figured you'd want to do that, Dave. All right, so let's kick things off. John Daigle, RotoWorld.com, Lamar Jackson, Matthew Stafford, and Teddy Bridgewater are the quarterbacks. Running backs, Christian McCaffrey, Tevin Coleman, Zach Moss, Kerryon Johnson, Jerick McKinnon, LaShawn McCoy, and Carlos Hyde. Receivers, DJ Chark, Terry McLaurin, Marvin Jones, Curtis Samuel, Antonio Brown, and Mohamed Sanu. Tight ends are Mark Andrews and Tyler Higbee. I would not have, again, this is like a recurring thing for me. Lamar Jackson, Matthew Stafford, that's good enough. I don't think I would have taken a third quarterback here in this best ball slim format. I think he did fine at tight end. Running back, he will need some help as he waited after McCaffrey to take Tevin Coleman until the 7th round. I think get that Niners thing kind of locked up with Coleman and McKinnon, but the receivers is going to need some spike weeks there as well.
Yeah, I really liked his first 4 rounds. Like I said before, I thought that taking Le'Veon Bell, or he could have taken, or anyone else, like, Ingram, Kareem Hunt, Cam Akers, whatever, would have been a more, then he wouldn't have had to been, surfing around for running backs later. He wouldn't have had to go crazy with some of these other guys. And then his receivers would have still been fine because he could have taken a receiver in the 7th, 8th, 9th. So I just felt that would have worked out better for him. But overall, when you have Christian McCaffrey, Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, Chark, Mclaurin, and, if he gets any of those, if Zach Moss erupts, his team could be outstanding.
Curtis Samuel, I'm going to set the over-under on catches for him this year at 50. Taking over or under?
It's funny. You said you were rolling into that statement, and I was thinking the word 48. So I guess I'm going to take the under.
You're going to take the under. All right, perfect. I get it. All right.
It's close.
Obviously it's close. Yeah. All right, so moving on here to Mark Dinerman and Dan Fisher in the 2 spot tonight, Dave. Patrick Mahomes and Jared Goff. That's what they called golf back in Scotland back in the day. And Caddyshack. So he takes Mahomes and Goff. Saquon Barkley, DeAndre Swift, Mark Ingram, Latavius Murray, Joshua Kelly, and Darrington Evans at running back. Receivers, Chris Godwin, Devontae Parker, Julian Edelman, Mecole Hardman, Deebo Samuel, Randall Cobb, Larry Fitzgerald. Tight ends are Hayden Hurst, Mike Gesicki, and Greg Olsen. I'm not sure if this is picking at nits at all, Dave, but as I narrow my assessment of this team down, it might depend on how quick Deebo Samuel can come back from his injury, because I like the top 3 running backs, quarterbacks, and tight ends I'm on board with. Receivers, I think, can get it done if Samuel comes back in time. And granted, it is his number 5 wide receiver, but I think it's an important one on his roster. On their roster, I should say.
Yeah, I looked at this team, and actually it's I said this the other night, that a lot of their picks are explainable. Like the way they put another Joe draft, where it's a balanced team. It takes Mahomes and he waits a little bit on tight end, but then he grabs Hurst and Gesicki. That's cool. Good job. Barkley, Swift, Ingram, fine. And Murray makes sense. Kelly might have a role. Evans is going to have a role. All their picks make sense. I like this team quite a bit because, Godwin, and then you get Edelman. If you like, Parker's a player I don't really care for, but I get it. If you like Parker.
Yep.
So I think it's a fine team. Nice job, and they have a really good shot at doing well.
Moving on to Matt Schauf from DraftSharks.com. Russell Wilson, Drew Brees, and Tyrod Taylor at quarterback. Running backs, Alvin Kamara, Todd Gurley, James Conner, Duke Johnson, Nyheim Hines, Rashad Penny are his running backs. Receivers, Robert Woods, Tyler Lockett, Brandon Cooks, Deshaun Jackson, Alan Lazard, Tyrell Williams, and then the tight ends, Blake Jarwin, Jared Cook, and Jay Sternberger. Dave, I think I have to recuse myself here from assessing this team, and here's why. There are not only so many duplicates of this team and my Scott Fishbowl team this year, I am almost positive.
Your favorite team of all.
I'm almost positive that my first 3 picks of the Scott Fishbowl were Kamara, Connor, and Gurley. He went Kamara, Gurley, and Connor with his first 3 picks.
That's really funny.
I obviously like this team. And he got my guy Sternberger, Deshaun Jackson, Nyheim Hines. I like both those guys. Tyrell Williams. I swear to God, there is like 8 or 9 duplicates between my
Maybe
Scott.
because you're using DraftShark rankings when you draft.
I referenced it. I wouldn't say I used it.
You might have.
I might have, but it is interesting to see all the overlap from the Scott Fishbowl and my Scott Fishbowl team and Matt Schauf's, because Smola and I didn't have any overlap.
Yeah.
But when
you and Schauf are on a mind
Schauf,
meld.
well, he and I split a Scott Fishbowl team in the past.
That's
before.
right. And then until he dogged you, he's like,
he didn't dog me. Scott Fish is like, oh my God, Schauf, you should have your own team instead of being saddled with this also ran here.
I'm limiting this to unlimited amount of teams is what Fish said.
Yeah. So we're going to let Balkman in again, but Schauf, you're for sure getting your own team. So what do you think of this squad here?
Well, if you like it, I think it sucks. This team is the worst. The Drew Brees pick was a total
I didn't
reach.
like that one. That was one
garbage.
that didn't match
Sternberger sucks. He's going to be terrible.
Sternberger does not suck.
He's the worst.
We already have like 2 I think we have 2 season-long bets on Sternberger, and I don't want to make it a third. I don't want to go all in on Sternberger.
And then you reach on Brees and you take Tyrod, piece of crap, 2,700 yards.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
I'm just kidding. It's fine. I don't really have any problems with it. There's a lot of picks I like. But I guess, Woods and Lockett don't get me all that excited as my number 1 and number 2 wide receivers. But, I mean, that's pricey kind of pay.
I like the Cooks as the third. I would not have taken Tyrod Taylor as my third quarterback.
Like, I would have preferred Chark and Kupp would have been the guys I would have had on my team at receiver instead of Woods and Lockett there. And, that's fine. Everyone has their own opinions.
Moving on to Jared Hassan and Jackie Dunk. The quarterbacks are Ben Roethlisberger, Kirk Cousins, Tua Tagovailoa. Running backs Ezekiel Elliott, Aaron Jones, Marlon Mack, Matt Breida, Boston Scott, and Adrian Peterson. Receivers A.J. Brown, Adam Thielen, Cooper Kupp, A.J. Green, Emmanuel Sanders, and John Brown. Tight ends are Darren Waller, Jonnu Smith, Dawson Knox. Officially, Dave, my favorite team thus far.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. Well-balanced team. I think they did well at every single position. And granted, they waited on quarterback. But granted, I wait on quarterback. And I still cobble some stuff out of my back pocket. I think that's exactly what Hassan and Dunk did tonight. I like this squad.
Yeah, honestly, the more I look at it, they really did do a nice job. Emmanuel Sanders as your 5 is really solid.
And John Brown is your 6.
Dawson Knox is your 3rd
number 3 tight end, yeah.
How did what is Dawson Knox's ADP? Pull that up.
I'm pulling it up right now.
18th round. What the hell are the rest of you guys doing? That's ridiculous. He's like a 13th round pick.
1404.
Yeah, 1404, and you guys are just sleeping on him completely. That's ridiculous. Nicely done.
Yeah, my God, I would have rather had him over Eifert or Disley or Jordan Reed, Kyle Rudolph, Devin Asiasi.
I think
O.J. Howard, for God's sake, I'd rather had him over O.J. Howard.
Yeah.
No offense to Mike Leone.
Adrian Peterson, I would have rather had Knox over Adrian Peterson, who he also himself took 2 rounds earlier.
Might have rather had him over his real-life teammate, John Brown.
For sure. It's interesting that Leone brought up where the target's going to go, who they going to. They have to be sucked away from John Brown, who didn't have that many to start with for Diggs.
All right, so moving on to Mike Leone. To his team here, Kyler Murray, Gardner Minshew as his quarterbacks, Dalvin Cook, Le'Veon Bell, Ronald Jones, Tony Pollard, Darrell Henderson at running back, receivers Julio Jones, Juju Smith-Schuster, Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, Jarvis Landry, Laviska Shenault, Jalen Hurd, and Andy Isabella, who I know how Dave's going to feel about this team, Chris Herndon, O.J. Howard, and Tyler Eifert.
Sleeper.
So Leone was kind of hard on himself. I think he did okay. It's just a question of if Herndon pans out and if he can get some production from Howard and Eifert. I think that's where this team hinges because the other positions I have no problem with.
Yeah, not only do I not have a problem with it, they're really, really strong. If Ronald Jones is as good as he could be, and then
as his number 3.
Yeah, and then he gets production out of tight end, and he's going to really be tough to beat. Because you have Kyler Murray, Cook, Le'Veon Bell, Rojo, and then Julio, Juju, Ridley, Kirk/Landry. His flex options are tremendous.
Filthy.
Yeah, they're ridiculous. If he gets tight end production, his team is going to be impossible to beat.
I think if Mike Leone had all 6 Infinity Stones tonight, Dave, I feel like he thinks he was operating with 3 or 4. And if he would have had all 6, oh my goodness. You and I would have been snapped out of existence tonight, as well as 8 other teams in this draft.
I never saw the second half of that, whatever that Infinity thingy.
Endgame? You never saw Endgame?
Never saw Endgame. I know what happens.
Good flick.
I didn't Wikipedia it like you do, but
right.
because everyone.
I did wiki
Endgame. You saw that one. I figure you saw it.
If it's a superhero movie, I don't wiki
clearly you saw it.
Yeah, I did.
And you paid money. But I saw the first one. It was fine, and I was going to see it, and I was like, well, whatever. I just haven't seen it yet. So is it good, by the way? Yeah,
it's very good, and it's like a 3-hour movie. And I went to the theater.
That's what I would call a 2-piss movie.
Okay, I was just going to talk.
Titanic was a 2-piss movie for me. I had to go to the bathroom, and then I had to go again, like when the ship was sinking. I'm like, oh my God.
So
anyway.
The theater I saw it at serves beer, and so I wanted to enjoy the movie with some beer. And I saw a midnight showing, so I could kind of get all my work done, and my family would be asleep.
Were you by yourself?
Yeah, I was by myself.
That's actually kind of. I would normally say it's lame, but it's kind of cool, actually.
That's the way to do it. But I Googled, I can't remember what I actually Googled, but I was trying to find the best pee breaks for people who have seen the movie. And I found a website, and it said, okay, when Hulk says this, you're going to have about 2 minutes where you don't really miss anything.
That's great.
Yeah, so I peed twice during it, and I timed it as soon as Hulk said something, and then I think Black Widow said something, and then it's like, okay, now I got to go again.
That's really...
That's the way to do it.
What's in the website? Is it like P?
I don't remember. I just Googled it and
that's really funny.
And found that. So that's how I wasn't disappointed.
You went by yourself to a midnight showing. Got a buzz on.
Yeah.
And,
well, it wasn't. I mean, it was
a minor buzz. Like,
minor. It was 2 beers, and that was like your limit. It's like 2 beers per ID. And I'm from Wisconsin, Dave. 2 beers doesn't do it for me the way it used to.
Yeah, 2 beers and then the full flask. You're like,
no,
give me a diet Mountain Dew too.
No.
You pour like 6 ounces of vodka in there.
I'm not a hard liquor type guy when it comes to the theater.
Like,
I remember
the movie ended and I don't remember what happened in the last hour.
Back in the day, and I was on athletic team, so I didn't drink because you get suspended for the season. But I went to see a movie with.
Also, you were in high school. 2
of my buddies. You ever heard of? You probably never heard of this. High School High. Have you ever heard of this movie?
No.
It's with John Lovitz and Tia Carrere, the female protagonist in the Wayne's World movies.
Okay, yeah, I know who she is. And I know who John Lovitz is.
It's like a B movie comedy type thing, and.
Is it good?
No, not really. But 2 of my buddies came over and they took a 6-pack of Old Style out of the fridge at my house, and we snuck that into the theater. And those guys drank
6 beers in the theater?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, and I didn't drink it, but that was my first time with alcohol in the theater before.
Wait, one more quick thing. Did you ever see the movie Student Bodies?
Student Bodies.
It's a terrible horror movie, kind of like
who's in it?
Like no one. It's like Scream. But it's called Student Body. It was a precursor. The killer's name is the Breather. It's like a fake, like Friday the 13th type movie. He kills people with paper clips and things like that.
This is really weird. 1981.
Oh, it's super old.
Yeah. Well, directed by Mickey Rose.
Yeah, it's not great, but it's I don't know. It might be worth 20 minutes of your time to watch parts of it.
Jerry Belson as the Breather.
And it's like he'd be like
Joe Flood as Mr. Dumpkin.
Because Friday the 13th would have those sounds, and he'd be like,
yeah. I would never see this. One night I actually saw this. It was a crossover horror / Christmas movie called Silent Night, Deadly Night. And,
I think I might have seen
it. And I saw that, and I was like, I'm done with horror.
I don't like horror movies in general.
That was it for me.
Like the Saw movies. It's like...
Saw's a little bit different for me, because there's a psychological terror to that I think that a lot of horror movies don't have.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you've never seen Cabin in the Woods, I saw this on a heavy recommendation from a guy I respect, and I saw it, and I really, really enjoyed that movie, too.
Right.
It's a quasi-horror type anthology movie. I think you might like that
Cabin in the Woods. Right.
Cabin in the Woods. Very good.
Pat, what are we on? Team 7?
We're on Paul Friel and Greg D'Antonio here.
There we go.
Team 6. Aaron Rodgers, Daniel Jones, Derek Carr, a quarterback. Running backs, Devin Singletary, Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, Damian Harris, Devontae Freeman, Chris Thompson. Wide receivers are Michael Thomas, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyler Boyd, Sterling Shepard, Henry Ruggs, and Sammy Watkins. Tight ends, Zach Ertz and Hunter Henry. Dave, this team, and Will Dissly, by the way, this team will – sorry, I just had a computer issue. This team is going to contend or not contend based on the opportunities presented by some of these rookie running backs and late-round running backs.
I totally agree with you. I think their tight ends are tremendous. I think their wide receivers, considering they waited until round 7 to get their third one, are really good. I mean, Shepard, Ruggs, and Watkins, very solid. The running backs, too. I mean, I know that they waited on running back, but then, getting Damian Harris, Devonta Freeman, and Chris Thompson. Again, when you look at high-stakes players, again, a lot of these picks are super explainable with roster construction. I think they did a really nice job constructing a roster. I think Henry was a crazy value in the 8th round, so I think that really – I like this team a ton because Henry can be flexed out if not even on purpose. It's best ball, so I like this team a lot.
Wasp guy in the chat room, Cabin in the Woods, ultimate epic homage to horror with a dose of satire. Dave, what more do you need?
Yeah,
that's a glowing recommendation right there.
Well, plus, it's from someone I respect. I mean, not you.
From a Juilliard trained.
You went to Juilliard.
Ivy League professor.
They teach biology at Juilliard.
Yeah, they teach everything at the Juilliard. Yeah, it's the Sorbonne of the West, Dave.
I didn't know he was a dancer.
No, he does. They do it all there. Dancing is just like one of the gen eds there, and then you branch out to whatever. All right, Matt Kelly, player profile.
Honestly, Juilliard should do that. I mean, the name is so they should all of a sudden move into biology.
I only bring it up because There's an episode of Seinfeld where Kramer was posing as a dermatologist.
Oh, yeah.
And he said,
he's like,
as a Juilliard trained dermatologist, I can't give this recommendation.
That's really funny.
I've always done that since then because of that. All right, Matt Kelly, playerprofiler.com, the Leone owner in tonight's draft, self-proclaimed Leone owner. Dak Prescott and Matt Ryan are the quarterbacks here. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Nick Chubb, Leonard Fournette, Darius Geis, Chase Edmonds at running back. Receivers are Amari Cooper, DK Metcalf, Anthony Miller, Justin Jefferson, Denzel Mims, Hunter Renfrow, T. Higgins, and Russell Gage. Tight ends, T.J. Hawkinson, Austin Hooper, and Ian Thomas. I think he executed his draft strategy pretty well based on what he told us when he called in before. And Dave, it's going to hinge. It's weird to say this, but his draft will hinge on those last 6 picks. I like his tight ends. I think his quarterbacks and running backs are fine. Can he get enough production from those back end, the back 6 of the 6-pack of receivers that he drafted late in order to make a run in this league?
And I think the answer to that is he probably can. I think I think the odds of him being a bottom 5 or 4 team are very low, actually. I think that with getting all those receivers, he's got a good shot out there. I don't have a lot to pick on this team other than the fact that he is going to get a 0 on the bye week of Dak Prescott and Matt Ryan, as Michael Leone pointed out. So there is that. I've seen players do some crazy things that include forced zeros, and they still end up doing pretty well. Yeah, I mean, it's just 20 points. You're going to lose 20 points. Yeah. Moving on, unless the Cowboys trade Dak Prescott because they don't plan on signing him, and he's quarterback. Then Matt Kelly's, then he's a genius. Yeah, he's like in the 9th dimension. Yeah. He's living in the Matrix. Yeah. Where we're all just, we're not plugged in. He is. Sal Esposito from the 8 spot tonight, the FFPC Joe, won over $10,000 in the main event alone. Deshaun Watson and Phillip Rivers at quarterback. Running back Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, Phillip Lindsay, Sony Michel, Justin Jackson, and Jamal Williams. Receivers Cortland Sutton, Odell Beckham, T.Y. Hilton, Jamison Crowder, CeeDee Lamb, Preston Williams, Robbie Anderson, and D.D. Westbrook. Tight ends are Evan Ingram and Jack Doyle. So, Dave, I have no quarrel with the quarterbacks. I think the receivers are nice and deep. That's what you like to see. Is there enough after Austin Eckler at running back? And can he churn out enough fantasy goodness between just Evan Ingram and Jack Doyle? Would have liked to see one more tight end there. Yeah, I agree with you, actually, on those points. It's a little tough for me to analyze this team. There's certain players that he took that I really are not big fans of, but then other ones I really do like. So if he's right, it could do really well. I mean, Henry and Eckler is a good start. I thought the thing is, with Sutton, it's tough to get past the fact that I thought it was a little bit of a reach there. But his receivers are pretty good. He acquitted himself well. I think Preston Williams is a nice pick. And, Robbie Anderson, Dede, who knows? They might work out. 2016 FFPC main event co-champion from numberball.com. It is Nelson Sousa in the 9th spot. Tom Brady, Cam Newton, Drew Lock as his quarterbacks. Miles Sanders, David Johnson, Kareem Hunt, Raheem Mostert, and A.J. Dillon at the running back position. Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, Mike Williams, Paris Campbell, N'Keal Harry, and Miles Boykin at receiver. Rob Gronkowski, Noah Fant, Jordan Reed, and Devin Asiasi at tight end. Dave, I'm not a fan of the last 2 tight ends, and I worry that he left himself a little bit naked at wide receiver, but quarterback and running back, he is more than equipped to make a run. I think I like his team a little bit more than you do because his running backs are pretty freaking sick. I mean, Sanders, top 4 are awesome. David Johnson, Kareem Hunt, Mostert. Okay, so fine, you got that dialed in. Tyreek Hill, and then you get super value on Mike Evans in the 4th. So I mean, that's tremendous value there. And then Mike Williams, Campbell, N'Keal Harry, and Boykin. All of those guys are upside. He's drafting like a joke because he is plays like a joke. Plays high stakes. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that those are all upside players. I think those are great picks. And then Brady, Newton, and Locke also really good. I didn't love the Gronk pick, but with Gronk paired with Fant, and then, Reed and Asiasi is so-so in Spanish, as they say. Maybe the tight ends are a little bit of a concern for me, but he's got a really good shot. I like his team a lot, actually. Again, another top 4 or 5 team. Yeah, I have to reevaluate here. Maybe you are right. Maybe it is a good team. And, of course, Nelson Sousa, the odds-on favorite, according to Javier from Terre Haute Picks.
tonight as he projected Sousa to be the winner of this league. All right, moving on, ladies and gentlemen, to the 10 spot. It's
this team is garbage.
Biplab Mandel and Kern.
35-time clowns over here.
Kern Reed.
Tearing up and probably arguing over every pick.
All right, Josh Allen and Joe Burrow are the quarterbacks. Running backs, Kenyon Drake, Melvin Gordon, David Montgomery, Alexander Madison, Antonio Gibson, and Darwin Thompson. Receivers, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Deontay Johnson, Jerry Jeudy, Brandon Ayuk, Rashad Perriman, and Corey Davis. Tight ends are Travis Kelce, Irv Smith, and Kyle Rudolph. So you get the Vikings tight end stack, Dave. This is an interesting team to assess because I think they're going to rely on some breakouts from Johnson, Jeudy, and Ayuk at the receiver position. And certainly you want to see good production from Melvin Gordon as your number 2 running back. So a couple of things have to come together for this team to win this league, but I could see more than a couple of things coming together for this squad.
That's the thing is when we're evaluating these teams and you see Kelce as the first pick, a lot of times you kind of just dismiss the tight end and you're like, oh, the rest of the team's a little bit weak by comparison.
Right.
But that's because Kelce's so awesome. I mean, he's so great, right?
Right.
But, Drake, Gordon, Montgomery, and I thought they had thoughtful picks with Madison and Gibson. That was good. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, my thoughts on Deontay Johnson, not a huge fan, but I do love Jerry Jeudy. And then taking Ayuk, Perriman, and Corey Davis. Again, high-stakes players take the upside, and those are all upside-type players. And then Darwin Thompson's kind of interesting. I actually think DeAndre Washington is a really nice pick. I'm really starting to like him a lot. But Thompson, he's another piece of that puzzle. You don't know how Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to pan out, so I think that's worth a shot late.
I'm kind of ticked off about it because I planned on cutting Darwin Thompson in a couple of my dynasty.
Yeah, now you got to.
Now I don't think I can.
Yeah.
What would you do? You trade him for a second rounder right now if you could get that?
Oh yeah, and it's like a freaking second.
You think you could get you probably don't think you could get a second rounder then?
I do not think you.
Would you trade him for a third rounder?
I
think I would.
Yes,
I think I would. Yeah. All right. Decision's been made.
Especially to a sucky team.
Fantasy points, Graham Barfield, not a sucky team in this format here. Carson Wentz, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Sam Darnold at quarterback. Running backs, Chris Carson, Jonathan Taylor, James White, Jordan Howard, Keyshawn Vaughn, and Anthony McFarland at running back. Devontae Adams, Marquise Brown, Stephon Diggs, Jalen Reger, Golden Tate, Steven Sims, and John Ross at wide receiver. Tight ends are George Kittle and Gerald Everett. Dave, it's a balanced squad. He's got some potential firepower on the outside at wide receiver. The running backs, the core has to stay together. Carson gets hurt a lot. Taylor's a potential league winner. James White's going to be Mr. Steady Eddie. Jordan Howard's a starter, so I think there's something to like there. And then the fact that you wait on quarterback until round 9, you still end up with Wentz, Garoppolo, and Darnold. This team is a contender.
I actually, unlike the number ball team, I think I like this team a little bit less than you do. No offense.
None taken.
Good. I think that I think Marquise Brown in the 5th round. I thought that it felt early, and then Diggs, is not going to get a ton of volume. I don't know. I just for some reason, just the players and how it all worked out. I don't love the team necessarily. I mean, you got Kittle, but then you wait super late for Gerald Everett, the backup tight end there, so you're not going to get any production there. But again, with Kittle, when like the argument I made with the Wasp team, when you take Kittle, I mean, he's such a great player.
Right.
If the other picks pan out, if Marquise Brown works out for him, if Taylor works out, he's going to have a fine team.
Final team we're going to talk about tonight, the FFPC Joes, Eric Young and Keno Moss here drafting from the 12 spot. Baker Mayfield, Ryan Tannehill, and Mitchell Trubisky at quarterback. Running backs are Joe Mixon, Josh Jacobs, Tariq Cohen, Raekwon Armstead, DeAndre Washington, Giovanni Bernard, and DJ Dallas. Receivers Allen Robinson, Kenny Golladay, Will Fuller, Michael Gallup, Darius Leighton, and Michael Pittman. Tight ends are Dallas Goddard and Eric Ebron. Dave, I would have liked to see a little bit more firepower at the running back position. I like what they did in 4 of the last 5 rounds, just scattering their buckshot there to try to see what they can hit on. I like the fact that they waited on quarterback. I don't know if there's enough at tight end, though, on this team. I think that's the bugaboo.
I think they might be all right at tight end, but, that's my feelings because I like Goddard and Ebron. You don't like either, and that's fine. I get it. I'm a little concerned at quarterback. I mean, Mayfield, Tannehill, Trubisky, a little on the dicey.
There's 3 of them. You're good.
Yeah,
it's all set.
I know you're fine with all that. I'm not so. I mean, because you're playing catch up in those positions. The Coleman pick was a reach, so I think that kind of put them a little bit behind the eight ball. But their first 5 wide receivers are pretty tremendous, actually. Robinson, Galladay, Fuller, Gallup, Slayton. That's pretty great, actually. I think, again, we'll see how it pans out. They will contend if you can get something out of the tight ends as well as quarterback.
And that is going to do it for coverage of the Pros vs. Joe's Skinny Pete number 5 league tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank Darren Armani, Dave Gerzak, the FFPC, our producer, and mutual friend Rob, our audio engineer, and my best friend Bryce. And, of course, most importantly, all of you listeners. I want to thank Matt Kelly, Mike Leone for calling in tonight and sharing some knowledge. And happy birthday to Pros vs. Joe's participant Ryan Poole, celebrating a birthday tonight after he drafted with Lou Tranquilli on night 1 last week. Happy birthday to Ryan. All right, tomorrow, the coverage for the Pros vs. Joe's wraps up for the year 2020. It is the Macho Man League number 6 tomorrow at 10 Eastern Time. The Joes will be Brian Picula, Todd Hopkins, James Boris, Peter St. Pierre, and Steve Ashley, along with Sky Eilers and Brian Tuminello. Pros tomorrow night, Chris Prince from Roto Grinders, Fantasy Football Masterminds, Michael Nazarek. Of course, Fantasy Mojo's Darren Armani participating. Former overall champ of the Pros vs. Joe's competition, Mike Beers from RotoViz, will be drafting tomorrow night, as well as Howard Bender from Fantasy Alarm and Jeff Mans from Guru Elite. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't done it, make your Planet Hollywood reservation. Sign up for the main event. If you're already signed up, you're going to get $400 off each additional team, no matter if you're drafting live in Las Vegas or online from the comfort of your own home. We have Football Guys Players Championship drafts filling up each and every day. Take your shot at $500,000 there, not to mention the Best Ball Slims, the Best Ball, the traditional Best Ball leagues, the Terminator competition, by the way, kicks off tomorrow as well, or it kicked off last night. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Your weekend,
the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com that was broadcast live and heard around the world. Eric and Dave will be back next week with more analysis, interviews, and advice from a guest much smarter than they are. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk with you again next week.
You know, this was a fun draft tonight, but I felt like we saw more fireworks last night with it. You know, the Edwards-Helaire thing really set the stage.
Yeah, it's true, for sure.
All right, so my prediction tomorrow, after conversations with Howard Bender from Fantasy Alarm.
Oh, boy, here we go.
I feel like we could see some fireworks in the back end of this draft between him and Jeff Mans.
Nice.
Oh, tomorrow. Yeah. I think it's
some good personalities.
It's going to be fun. We're going to have some good personalities in this draft for sure, and some good action. We will wrap up and put a bow on the 2020 FFPC Pros vs. Joe's competition tomorrow, but that's not the end of our live draft coverage. More on that. Tune in. We'll talk to you at 10 Eastern Time tomorrow. Thanks for listening, everybody.